Chapter 2660. Hey, old Zhou, why don't you listen to me? Seeing that Zhou Yinan was about to leave, Li Ku immediately stood up and pulled him back. Old Zhou, listen to me. If I can help, I'll help. We really can't afford to offend that kid. Zhou Yinan didn't believe that Qin Zhao could be that strong at his age. He thought that Qin Zhao probably had something to do with Celestial Master Zhang. That was why Zhang Ding had backed off. As for Qin Zhao beating Zhang Ding, he didn't believe it either. He knew better than anyone how strong Zhang Ding was. In this world, the number of people who could match up to Zhang Ding could be counted on one hand. Qin Zhao was definitely not one of the characters on this hand. Zhou Yinan had sunk into his own hysteria. He felt that Li Ku would be betraying him if he didn't help him. However, he had no power or money now. He wasn't strong enough either. He didn't believe what Li Ku and Wang Hai said. But that Qin guy definitely wasn't weak. After thinking about it, Zhou Yinan couldn't think of a good solution. If Li Ku and Wang Hai were willing to help, that would be much simpler. They weren't weak in the first place. What was different from him was that both of them had a wide range of connections. They also had a lot of spare cash. Zhou Yinan's main job was a heavy worker in a construction site. It wasn't hard to make a living, but it was hard to make connections or make friends with people. Because of his personal problems these years, Zhou Yinan had always kept a low profile. Therefore, Zhou Yinan didn't know many people, apart from a few in his small circle. Only a few of his fellow disciples from the Five Elements sect had some contact. Zhou Yinan had entered the sect with skills, and the Five Elements sect didn't require someone with a clean background to join. In fact, the Five Elements sect was more open-minded in accepting people. It could be someone who had just awakened or someone who had skills like Zhou Yinan. Moreover, as long as they didn't commit crimes, as long as they weren't wanted by the public security, and as long as certain basic conditions were met, they could be apprenticed into the sect. The Five Elements sect also knew about Zhou Yinan's background and current situation. However, it did not matter to them, even though the Five Elements sect was not a top-notch sect like the Maoshan sect. However, the Five Elements sect had a large number of people. Even within the country, there were only a handful of people who had more people than the Five Elements sect. Of course, most of the people in the Five-Element Divination sect were outer disciples, and Zhou Yinan was one of these outer disciples. But the Grand Evolution Five Elements sect also had core members, just that their numbers were rather few. For a period of time, Zhou Yinan had always wanted to become a core member. If he could become a core member of the Grand Yen Five Elements sect, that way, the safety of him and his family would be more guaranteed. Moreover, the resources that core members could obtain were naturally not something that the outer members could compare with. In fact, the outer members of the Five-Element Divination sect were only able to obtain a set of the Five-Element Divination technique. This thing couldn't be said to be very precious, and practically everyone in the Grand Evolution Five Elements sect had a set. Secondly, it carried the name of the Grand Yen Five Elements sect. Zhang Ding had always known where Zhou Yinan was. He also knew that he had joined the Five Elements sect. However, it was precisely because he was afraid of the Five Elements sect. That was why he didn't attack Zhou Yinan. But tonight, Zhou Yinan took the initiative to appear before Zhang Ding. Zhang Ding naturally wouldn't be polite with Zhou Yinan. Right now, Zhou Yinan was at his wit's end. Therefore, he was considering if he should ask for help from his fellow sect members. Of course, even if he did, he would still have to pay a hefty price. Zhou Yinan thought about it and finally decided to ask for help from a few fellow sect members. And Zhou Yinan wasn't the only one who wanted to harm him. Regarding what had happened tonight, Zhang Ding was the one who was even more worried. He had been pressed to the ground in front of his own disciples. To Zhang Ding, this was a great humiliation. For a long time, Zhang Ding had always been at the peak of power. How could he endure such humiliation? He enjoyed the fawning of his subordinates and the flattery of his disciples. He couldn't put down the shelf he was holding. Therefore, he needed revenge. He needed to wash away this humiliation. Perfected Wu Su had already warned him. But how could Zhang Ding listen to Perfected Wu Su's warning? Perfected Wu Su's seniority was extremely high. But he was an idle savage without a sect. He only hung out in a Taoist temple. Therefore, Zhang Ding's warning was like a fart to him. The only person he was worried about was Zhang Tianyi, who was behind Qin Zhao. He even suspected that Qin Zhao's humiliation today might have been incited by Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Ding returned to his lodgings. The more he thought about it, the more unwilling he became. After thinking about it, Zhang Ding finally made a decision. He would get revenge on Qin Zhao. Of course, he couldn't do it openly. After all, he still had to consider Zhang Tianyi's feelings and thoughts. But if it was done by someone other than the Maoshan sect, in that case, he couldn't be blamed for it. After thinking for a long time, Zhang Ding picked up his phone and dialed a number. "What's up, Zhang Daojun?" A teasing voice came from the other end of the phone. Zhang Ding didn't care about the person's tone. After all, they were old acquaintances. They had also worked together many times. "De Kuei, I have an enemy here who is very strong, much stronger than me. Do you have any plans?" "Strength means nothing to me. What do you want me to do? Other than sparing his life, you can do whatever you want." "Is it okay for me to kill him?" "Of course, if you can do it." "How much are you going to pay?" 1 million yuan. "If you can cripple that guy and bring him to me alive, then I can add another 1 million yuan. I want detailed information on the person I'm dealing with, as well as his identity." "No, I need to investigate. The guy came back from abroad, so there won't be much information about him in China. You know I don't like to act without knowing the enemy. It's too risky. Plus, the person you're dealing with is stronger than you are. This makes the mission even more difficult. As long as you do this for me, we can sit down and talk about the price again. I don't like to talk about money after the fact. I want it before the mission. Otherwise, who knows if I'll still get the money after you've completed your mission. After all, I've met scammers before. Then how much do you think is suitable?" "One price, 5 million yuan. You're asking for too much." Chapter 2661. Chen Zhao was about to go upstairs when he saw Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing walk out of the elevator. "Boss." Zhang Ting was a bit surprised. "It's so late. You're still not going back?" "I was a bit crazy today," Zhang Ting said, chuckling. "It's not safe for you girls to go home," Chen Zhao said. "I'll send you back." "Noni boss. The security here is much better than abroad." In L.A., Chen Zhao had warned them not to go out alone after 8 at night. They couldn't even go out in a group because L.A. was very unsafe at night. Every night, the various police departments in L.A. had to deal with more than 300 cases. LAPD had more than 500 customers every night. In comparison, Shanghai was also an international metropolis. Its security was countless times better. It was already good if there were a few cases in a night. Even so, it was still very irresponsible to let the two girls go home alone at night. "Let's go." Chen Zhao had rented the car for the time being. It would be more convenient for his family to go out. In the car, Chen Zhao asked, "Where did you go today?" The mall, and the mall." Yi Ziqing felt that the foreign woman Chen Zhao had found was really a wastrel. She really enjoyed it and Fei Lai would occasionally buy things for them. But seeing Fei Lai spend money like water, the two of them were really shocked. It was too scary. In just one day, that wastrel had spent at least 10 million yuan. Even if she was rich, she probably couldn't afford that woman's wastrel, right? Fei Lai bought a lot of things today, right? Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing glanced at each other. A lot? It wasn't something that could be described with just a few words. Fei Lai had almost moved the entire mall home. Fei Lai had spent 2 million in 2 luxury stores. A lot. A lot. It'll probably be troublesome to even get on the plane when we go back. While driving, Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. "Is there anything fun around here? How about going out to play?" Yi Ziqing asked. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Fei Lai's job is to be a coastal rescue team member. Her job is to soak in the water every day. Also, when we're overseas, we go out once or twice a month. I don't think it's attractive to her. Is this the right way?" Chen Zhao asked. "That's right. There's a turn up ahead. Drive another 500 meters and you'll reach Jingli Garden. We're here." The car stopped at the entrance, and the two girls thanked him profusely. "All right, let's go in. I'm going back to rest. Boss, do you want to go upstairs for a cup of tea? Forget it. Seeing Qin Zhao drive away, Zhang Ting heaved a sigh of relief. Why do I feel like you're a little disappointed? Yi Ziqing teased. Zhang Ting certainly knew what Yi Ziqing meant. She mocked back. I think you're the one who's disappointed. He's definitely a rich husband. Just as they were about to enter the neighborhood, a man suddenly jumped out from the roadside. The man was dressed decently in a suit, tie, leather shoes, and a three-piece suit that was the symbol of a successful person. Ziqing, who was the man who brought you back? Yu Keming? Why you here? Yi Ziqing looked at Yu Keming, who had suddenly appeared. I ask you, who is that man? Yi Ziqing frowned. Zhang Ting was about to speak, but her hand was pulled by Yi Ziqing. However, his hand was pulled by Yi Ziqing. Yi Ziqing took 2 steps forward and said, Rich man, did you see the car he was driving? Rolls-Royce Phantom, market price 8 million. The man's face turned red and white. Gritting his teeth, he pointed at Yi Ziqing. Ziqing, when did you become so materialistic? So realistic? You don't even care about your face for money? Slap. Yi Ziqing threw a slap at the man. Who are you to me? What right do you have to criticize me? What right do you have to criticize me? Know your place. Ziqing, it's been 2 years. Can't you forgive me? Forgive? Forgive you? B. Yi Ziqing cursed. I've raised you for 3 years, and you made me a cuckold. How am I not comparable to that? Is my chest not big enough? Or my but not perky enough? Yi Ziqing scolded loudly, causing the man in front of her to take a few steps back. Yi Ziqing, on the other hand, pressed forward step by step, as if she wanted to skin this man alive. You're not even professional when you're living off a woman. What do I expect you to do? Yi Ziqing and Yu Keming were classmates. When Yu Keming was in school, he was considered a famous person. He was talented and had a family background. But the year he graduated, Yu Keming's family went bankrupt. Yu Keming could only start his own business. After 3 years, he lost his last bit of capital. At that time, he met Yi Ziqing. At that time, Yi Ziqing was just an ordinary employee in the company. They met each other and fell in love. Yi Ziqing worked hard for her own business. She supported Yu Keming's business. Yi Ziqing basically gave all the money she had saved to Yu Keming. However, Yu Keming was still useless in his business. However, his feelings soared. Yi Ziqing personally put on a show of catching the adulterer in bed. Of course, Yu Keming couldn't defend himself. Yi Ziqing was indeed infatuated with Yu Keming in those years. Basically, Yi Ziqing would agree to anything he said. But in essence, Yi Ziqing was still a smart and capable woman. After catching the adulterer in bed, Yi Ziqing directly let Yu Keming leave the house. Although she couldn't get back all the money she had invested in the past. But she got back most of it. As for Yu Keming, he would look for Yi Ziqing to get back together with her every few days. This wasn't the first time. Zhang Ting was already familiar with it. While you're still hard, go out and be a gigolo for a few years. Don't appear in front of me, or I'll kill you. Ziqing, forgive me. I don't mind you and that man. Forgive me. Let's call it even, okay? Hearing this, Yi Ziqing was furious. Scram. Immediately. Scram right now. Ziqing, help me please. I'm begging you. My employees haven't been paid for 3 months. I only need 1 million. 1 million and I can solve all the problems. Oh, scram. Yi Ziqing looked at Yu Keming in disgust. Zhang Ting looked on coldly. She was an outsider. She never took the initiative to be Yi Ziqing's relationship mentor. Yi Ziqing was an adult. She knew what decisions were right. You don't. That man does, right? Ask that man for a sum. He can drive a luxury car worth 8 million, so 1 or 2 million should be easy, right? Chapter 2662. Even Zhang Ting, who had always been a bystander, was shocked. They were all stunned by Yu Keming's words. Although she had never interacted with Yu Keming in the past. But at least she had heard Yi Ziqing talk about her past with Yu Keming. Zhang Ting felt that Yu Keming's biggest problem was that he made a mistake that all men would make. Of course, this was mainly because Zhang Ting wasn't as domineering as Yi Ziqing. Therefore, she even felt that it was not a big problem. But now, she felt that Yi Ziqing's explanation to Yu Keming in the past was too one-sided. Scumbag wasn't enough to describe Yu Keming. Other than being a scumbag, he had everything. Yu Keming, on the other hand, had nothing but dregs. A man's courage and dignity were completely gone. Yi Ziqing wasn't surprised by Yu Keming's words at all. She used to think that love was everything to her, so that she couldn't see it clearly. But when she caught Yu Keming in the act, when she recalled the past, she realized that Yu Keming was not only full of emotions. He was a scumbag in all aspects. Yi Ziqing sneered, turned around and walked into the neighborhood. Zhang Ting immediately caught up to Yi Ziqing. The only thing worth rejoicing about was that this was a high-class neighborhood. After all, the 20 yuan per square meter property management fees were not paid for nothing. This was also why Yu Keming had been waiting for Yi Ziqing at the entrance. Yu Keming wanted to follow Yi Ziqing into the district. However, Yi Ziqing directly said to the security guard, "I don't know him, and I have nothing to do with him." Then Yu Keming was stopped at the gate. Yi Ziqing, come back. You scapegoat. Don't think this is over. I'm telling you it's not over. It's not over yet. No matter how loudly Yu Keming shouted at the door, Yi Ziqing pretended not to hear anything. In fact, she didn't need to do anything at all. The security guard at the door had already stretched out his fist of justice. At the same time, it was accompanied by insults such as scum, bastard, and bastard. He must have heard a lot of gossip when he was arguing with Yi Ziqing at the door. "Z, is it really all right? You allowed that bastard to spout nonsense at the door and tarnish your reputation. What can I do? Call the police to arrest him? The police will only treat it as an ordinary emotional dispute." Yi Ziqing also had Yi Ziqing's helplessness. In the end, it was still a problem of the strength of the government's judicial procedures. If this was overseas, using insulting words to attack others on the streets would basically send them to jail. In China, it would be difficult to even punish public security. There was nothing Yi Ziqing could do about it. This was the compromise that ordinary people had with scoundrels. Scoundrels were feared because they had no bottom line. And the reason why ordinary people were ordinary people was because they were helpless against scoundrels. How about asking my boss for help? No matter how capable your boss is, what can he do in the country? His connections and power are all overseas. He's just a rich man in the country. Most of the people Yi Ziqing interacted with were rich. Therefore, she understood the difference between the rich and the powerful. The rich were commonly known as the nouveau riche. In terms of social connections and qualifications, they were no different from ordinary people. However, it was different for people with power and influence. Perhaps to them, just a word or the time it took to eat a meal was all it took for an ordinary person to run around for a few months, use connections everywhere, and spend a large sum of money to get things done. Yi Ziqing did not doubt that Chen Zhao had huge connections and resources overseas. After all, it was very difficult to obtain such a large amount of wealth without connections and resources. However, overseas resources were useless in the country. Even the black card, known as the Wishing Dragon Ball, could not be used in the country. Back then, Citibank had claimed that all users with a black card needed to call their financial butler and say that they wanted to spend the night with a Hollywood movie queen. Basically, by the time they got home, the movie queen would already be lying on the bed after washing up. However, in the country, no one would give a damn if they called. Therefore, Yi Ziqing did not believe that Chen Zhao had a solution at all. Yu Keming was a scoundrel, so he was invincible right now. When the two girls entered the lobby of the apartment building, the lights flickered. However, the two did not care. They thought that it was just a problem with the power supply. However, when they reached the elevator, they realized that the elevator did not open even after pressing it for a long time. Damn, did the 2,000 yuan a month feed the dogs? Yi Ziqing was clearly in a bad mood. Usually, she would not say something like this. The elevator door still did not open. Yi Ziqing's patience had run out. She had not gone berserk yet, which meant that Yi Ziqing was well-mannered. "Let's take the elevator." "Yi, it's 3:25 in the morning and we live on the 21st floor. Then what should we do?" Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing were both in despair. 21st floor. It was a path to heaven. Even if they found the property manager now, they would only be able to fix the elevator tomorrow at the earliest. Boss, what's up? Are you home? Boss, are you back at the hotel? On the way. Can you come over and pick us up at the door? We plan to stay at the hotel for the night. Chen Zhao did not ask why. When Chen Zhao drove back to the entrance of the neighborhood, Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing were waiting for him there. After getting in the car, Chen Zhao noticed that Yi Ziqing's expression did not look good. What's wrong? Not comfortable at home? You want to stay at the hotel for the night? The elevator is broken when you get to the door and you can't go up. Or you can climb the stairs to the 21st floor. That's why living so high up is the most troublesome. Luckily, my house is not that high. Yes, Chen Zhao's house was so high. Mirror Lake Manor had 4 floors above ground and 3 floors below ground. Mingyue Villa was slightly higher. After all, it was built on a cliff. However, Chen Zhao saw something else on Yi Ziqing. It was a very strange thing. He had only seen it in Xiangjiang movies. More accurately, he had only heard of it in Xiangjiang movies. Her glabella was black. There seemed to be a black cloud covering the center of Yi Ziqing's brows. Oh, look at Ms. Ye's expression. You probably met someone and something unpleasant happened, Chen Zhao said casually, seeming to be unintentional. Don't mention that person to me. It's bad luck. Yi Ziqing was still angry. I also think that you're full of bad luck, huh? After returning to the hotel, Chen Zhao personally checked the 2 girls in. Boss, we don't have to stay that long. You don't have to book us that long. I've already restrained myself a lot. If I don't book them for a year, I'll be letting down these 3 rich people. Chapter 2663. Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing both smiled bitterly. Then the 2 went to their room. They confirmed once again that Chen Zhao really wasn't interested in them. Chen Zhao didn't go back to his room to sleep. Apart from Fei Lai, Portia was also in the room. Zephyrus slept in the suite with the kids. Chen Zhao couldn't go back to his room to rest at all. Chen Zhao wanted to get another room. But after thinking about it, he realized that there were only 2 hours until dawn. He didn't have to get another room. Plus, for Chen Zhao, there wasn't much difference between sleeping and not sleeping. Chen Zhao didn't need to rely on sleep to recover his energy. He just sat in the lobby and started playing on his phone. Just then, a group of people entered the lobby. 2 burly bodyguards led the way. In the middle was a fair-skinned man with a few assistants around him. While the assistants were checking in, the man walked to Chen Zhao's table. The 2 bodyguards were about to chase Chen Zhao away and let their employer sit down. Suddenly, the man shouted, "Mr. Chen!" Chen Zhao looked up. "Wang He, why are you here?" "Mr. Chen, why are you here?" The 2 bodyguards thought that it was a close call. They'd almost bumped into their employer's friend. Chen Zhao glanced at the 2 bodyguards. "They're your bodyguards?" Yeah. Perhaps it was because of their low status, but Wang He always felt like he couldn't raise his head before Chen Zhao. They were afraid of Chen Zhao abroad. Technically, Chen Zhao's influence in the country should be gone. But he still instinctively feared Chen Zhao. "Do you have such a big lineup in the middle of the night?" Wang He's team had 12 bodyguards and assistants. Wang He became even more embarrassed. "It's because without such a big lineup, we probably wouldn't even be able to get out of the airport," he explained. "It's so late. Are there still fans picking you up?" "Can't help it. It's all arranged by the company," Wang He said with a wry smile. "Actually, our whereabouts will be disclosed by the company to our fans and then arranged for our fans to come and pick us up at the airport. If there are no fans to pick us up at the airport, the next day the entertainment news will probably report that a certain celebrity's popularity has plummeted. So even at night, other than a small number of true fans, there are also some professional fans who have been hired by the company. They are there to cheer for us celebrities." "Okay, looks like it's hard on you too." Chen Zhao could understand. The seemingly glamorous superstars also had their own unknown hardships. Of course, even so, there were still many young people who wanted to become famous. "By the way, Mr. Chen, why are you here?" "I'm coming back with my family for a few days," Chen Zhao said. "But shouldn't you be resting now?" The bed's been taken, Qin Zhao said helplessly. Wang He couldn't help but chuckle. That made sense. This was the only reason why Qin Zhao would sit here. At this time, a woman wearing glasses walked over. He, pay attention to your image. Don't interact with strangers for no reason. The check-in procedures are done. Let's go back to our rooms. We still have activities tomorrow. Sisterly, this is my friend, not a stranger. You have to understand that you're an international superstar now. Don't make friends with just anyone. It's easy to be led into a ditch. Wang He thought that he was already very close to Qin Zhao. There wouldn't be any cracks just because of a few stupid words from others. However, his own manager's words still made him feel very embarrassed. That's right, it was extremely embarrassing. It was fine if Sisterly talked to clients like this normally. After all, as his own manager, he had to maintain a certain style most of the time. Therefore, an arrogant attitude would often have different effects. But Qin Zhao was different. Qin Zhao wasn't his fan, nor was he his client. On the contrary, he was indebted to Qin Zhao. Wang He, did you change your manager? Qin Zhao asked. Qin Zhao had an impression of Wang He's previous manager. She seemed to be a little girl. She probably wasn't as old as Wang He, but she had 3 artists, including Wang He. Sisterly, it was arranged by the company, Wang He said calmly. From his tone, Qin Zhao could vaguely sense that he was dissatisfied with the company. If he could, Wang He would rather have the previous manager. Although she was a little unfamiliar with the business, she was still better than the current Sisterly. Sisterly was a very domineering manager. To put it bluntly, she was very controlling. And with Wang He's current status in the entertainment industry, to put it more arrogantly, he was the movie superstar with the most box office appeal. What he needed was a manager who could serve him. He didn't need a manager who treated him like a toy and controlled his actions constantly. No matter how good Sisterly was, she wouldn't be accepted by Wang He. Actually, in the entertainment industry, big artists usually had mid-level managers. Mid-level managers had certain connections and business skills, but they weren't bad-tempered and were easy to get along with. Most of the time, they would listen to the artist's decisions. Big managers, on the other hand, worked with newcomers because they had the means to control them. Moreover, they had a higher chance of helping newcomers debut or even become famous. These were all industry conventions. It wasn't like there weren't big-name managers working with big-name artists in the entertainment industry. But the best outcome was to work together for a year or 2 and then break up peacefully. Most of the collaborations ended in a heated argument and ended on bad terms. It was understandable that the manager had the most resources and connections in the company and was also the best at business. But Wang He was already the number 1 in the company now. In terms of status, he was even more popular than Qin Ku, the actress. Of course, the two didn't have conflicting resources and Qin Zhao was the middleman. So, the two had a good relationship. After all, they were both the number 1 brother and sister in the company, so they didn't have any conflicts in private. On the other hand, Wang He's popularity and charisma were much stronger than Qin Ku's. So, he wouldn't be submissive to his manager and the company like before. He could express his emotions and thoughts at will. But the company had arranged a manager like Sisterly for him. He couldn't accept this. Both of them had their own tempers. So, it was only a matter of time before this team disbanded. Are you going to change managers? Or change companies? Qin Zhao asked. Qin Zhao remembered that the head of this company was also Qin Ku's manager. Wang He glanced at Sisterly. Hearing Qin Zhao's words, Sisterly's expression changed. But she didn't soften. Instead, she stared at Wang He coldly. She wanted to see how Wang He would answer. Chapter 2664. Of course not, Wang He said, chuckling. It was an adult conflict of interest, unless he had a 100% chance of winning. Otherwise, he wouldn't say what was on his mind in front of Qin Zhao. Compared to the young and energetic Wang He from a year ago, he wasn't just more famous in the past year. Even his words and actions were much more mature. However, from the look in Wang He's eyes and face, it was obvious that he was unhappy. Mr. Qin, didn't we agree in to let me know when you come back? I'll be your host. You sound like I'm not from China. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. What's your next plan, Mr. Chen? Okay, superstar. You have a lot of work. I can reject them. Wang He's attitude was very sincere. Wang He blurted out without any hesitation. Beside him, Sister Li panicked. Chen Zhao chuckled. Don't. I'm not in the entertainment industry, nor do I have any projects related to it. I can't compensate you. Mr. Chen, you must be joking. I just want to give myself a break. Wang He didn't think that Chen Zhao was worthless. After all, it was all thanks to Chen Zhao that he was where he was today. Next time. Chen Zhao shrugged. Chen Zhao had a few friends in Hollywood. Chen Ku was also his cousin in the Chinese entertainment industry. He knew how busy these celebrities were. For others, New Year was a big break, but for celebrities, it was the best time to earn money. If Chen Zhao took Wang He on a break in just a few days, he would lose at least 10 million. If Wang He really wanted to, Chen Zhao wouldn't mind asking him to go somewhere else to play for a while after some time. Sister Li stopped talking. She just stood at the side and watched Chen Zhao and Wang He chat. She already knew that Wang He was very unhappy with her. If she interfered with his private life again, then he might flip the table with her. Actually, she had also guessed why the company had arranged for her to be Wang He's manager. That was to control Wang He. Complete control. After all, it was rare for the company to raise a superstar like Wang He. Naturally, she didn't want Wang He to be out of control. However, Wang He had already soared to the top. His stay and departure were no longer restricted by the company. If it was a small artist or a small celebrity, the company would directly ban them and they would become a missing person. However, it was useless on Wang He. Wang He could just forcefully terminate the contract and pay a penalty for breaching the contract. There were even quite a number of companies that were willing to help Wang He pay the penalty fee. Furthermore, the company had arranged for a powerful agent like Sister Li to work with Wang He. The final outcome would definitely not be Wang He coming to a compromise. Instead, it would be Wang He breaking up. It's getting late. Go get some rest. Chen Zhao patted Wang He's shoulder. It was already past 5 o'clock in the morning, and the sky would be bright in an hour. To be honest, even if Wang He still had the energy, his bodyguards wouldn't. This time, Wang He did not reject it. In fact, he was also waiting for a way out. After all, he was just an ordinary person and needed rest. Mr. Chen, rest early too. Chen Zhao nodded with a smile, but he didn't plan on resting. Just as Wang He and his men left, a man came over. This person was Yu Keming. He had been sitting in a seat not far away. It was only after Wang He left that he walked over. Hello, sir, may I know you? My surname is Yu Keming. This is my name card. Chen Zhao noticed this man. When he was chatting with Wang He earlier, this man had been sitting not far away. In fact, it was hard not to attract attention if Chen Zhao did not return to his room to rest at this time. Especially when this man kept glancing at her from time to time. Chen Zhao did not take the name card, because he had a very bad impression of this man. During his 2 years abroad, Chen Zhao had learned many foreigners' habits, but he hadn't learned how to be familiar with others. Chen Zhao remained sitting in his seat with his legs crossed. He looked up at Yu Keming. What's the matter? Yu Keming put away the name card awkwardly. He sat in the seat that Wang He had been sitting in. Sir, I'm Yi Ziqing's boyfriend. What's the matter? Chen Zhao replied calmly. Sir, don't you think you should give me some compensation? Yu Keming didn't beat around the bush. My girlfriend didn't come home last night and was brought to the hotel by you. If you don't give her some compensation, I think it'll affect your reputation greatly. Oh, then how much do you want? Chen Zhao still had the same indifferent attitude. Yu Keming hesitated. After a while he said, 10 million. Just 10 million and I'll let bygones be bygones. 10 million is enough? Yu Keming's eyes brightened. He had thought that Chen Zhao would bargain with him. He did not expect the man to be so straightforward and ask if 10 million was enough. If you want me to break up with Ziqing completely, give me another 10 million. You're not worth that much, Chen Zhao said, smiling. Chen Zhao realized that Yu Keming had turned on the recording function of his phone. Chuckling, he said, I'll just find a random person and pay them $1 million. They'll probably be happy to kill you. Without realizing it, Chen Zhao was using the same tactics he used abroad to deal with Yu Keming. Yu Keming laughed. He felt that it was a wise decision to record Chen Zhao's words. If they were abroad, the foreigners would definitely be scared to death by Chen Zhao. But this was China. Everyone was used to good security. So, Yu Keming only thought that Chen Zhao must be out of his mind. Or maybe he had watched too many Xiangjiang movies. He felt that Chen Zhao's words were really stupid. But these stupid words were very useful to him. If Chen Zhao had a big company, he could use it as a threat. After all, Chen Zhao's words could easily affect the company's reputation. So, he had to get rid of the negative effects of Chen Zhao's words. I want 50 million now, Yu Keming said confidently. At the same time, he took out his phone. I recorded everything you said just now. Chen Zhao suddenly laughed. Ah, are you joking? So what if I said it? What if I give the recording to your competitor? Then you'd better contact my company's competitor, Chen Zhao said mockingly. Huh. Just like how Chen Zhao was used to using a foreigner's way of talking, Yu Keming was also using Chinese rules to guess Chen Zhao. Chapter 2665. The rich foreigners were much dirtier than the rich people in China. The so-called African hunting clubs were all on the surface. Some of the dirty ways to seek pleasure were unimaginable to bystanders. There were even some scary killing games. But even if people outside this class knew about it, it would be hard for it to be exposed. In a society dominated by capital, when people in this class didn't want outsiders to know certain information, it would be hard for it to be exposed. So, Chen Zhao didn't care about the recording at all. Let's not talk about whether Chen Zhao would really let him record it. Even if he did, it could only be spread in China. Because Chen Zhao was a giant capitalist. In order to defeat a capitalist, apart from using business methods, he could only use political methods. If Yu Keming could really beat Chen Zhao in business or politics, he wouldn't have come to blackmail Chen Zhao. Yu Keming's naive idea couldn't deal with Chen Zhao, a rich person whose assets were all abroad. It wouldn't work even in China. Extorting 20 million yuan for a recording? Even robbing a bank wasn't like that. You better watch a few more Xiangjiang police movies. Even blackmail is so unprofessional, Chen Zhao said mockingly. Being poor isn't scary, Chen Zhao said in a mocking tone. What's scary is being uneducated. Also, I'm very suspicious about Ms. Ye's boyfriend. How blind must she be to find someone like you? Yu Keming's face turned red. He glared at Chen Zhao. Yi Ziqing had said that living off a woman wasn't professional. Now, Chen Zhao said that blackmail wasn't professional. You bastard! Yu Keming finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He punched Chen Zhao's face. But could Chen Zhao be beaten by this mooch spinner? Dodging Yu Keming's fist, he almost lost his footing. Stumbling 2 steps, Chen Zhao secretly stuck out a foot and tripped him. Then, his head hit the corner of the table. Blood. I'm bleeding. I'm beaten to death. Just then, the receptionist ran over. Sir, what happened here? Nothing, Chen Zhao said calmly. You can call the police. Also, I think you should tell your manager to keep the surveillance footage because I need it. To Chen Zhao, this wasn't a problem at all. The Los Angeles Police Department had become his second home. This kind of situation was considered a fight in the country, which was a violation of public security regulations. Chen Zhao hadn't even been sent to the police station for such a minor issue. I've lost a lot of blood. I want to check the wound. The guard glanced at Chen Zhao again. He recognized that Chen Zhao was a guest of the hotel, while the one on the ground looked like a scoundrel. However, it was true that he had bled a lot. Call the police first, Chen Zhao said calmly. As for his situation, the police will decide. Although he had used one of his legs just now, he had already known the location of the surveillance camera. He would definitely not be discovered by the surveillance camera. Not long after, the police arrived. They were a man and a woman. The 2 policemen looked at Yu Keming, who was sitting on the ground and covering his forehead with a tissue. Then, he glanced at Chen Zhao, who was sitting on the sofa and drinking hot tea. What's going on? The policeman asked. Officer, Seeing the police, Yu Keming immediately jumped up and grabbed the policeman's wrist. You have to help me. I was hit. He hit me. The two policemen looked at Chen Zhao. They realized that he was still as calm as ever. It was rare for them to see someone so calm. Tell me, what's going on? He ran to me and said that I had an affair with his girlfriend and then asked me for 30 million. The thing on the table is his phone. There should be a recording of our conversation. Seeing that I didn't agree, he got angry and wanted to beat me up. In the end, he didn't even touch me and fell down. The hotel's surveillance camera recorded the scene. Chen Zhao said calmly. What's your relationship with his girlfriend? His girlfriend is a friend of my employee. They live upstairs now. If I'm related to Miss Yi, I wouldn't have been sitting here drinking tea the whole night. If it didn't involve Yi Ziqing, Chen Zhao couldn't be bothered to explain. After all, it wouldn't affect the outcome whether he explained or not. However, Chen Zhao didn't want to ruin a woman's reputation. So, it was better to be clear. If you're not related, why would he say that you're related? Shameless way of thinking. Also, I wonder if they're boyfriend and girlfriend. It's all because of you. If it weren't for you, Ziqing and I wouldn't have broken up. She must have come to you because you're rich. Ha! So you broke up long ago. Chen Zhao sneered at Yu Keming. I just came back yesterday. Before yesterday, I didn't even know Miss Yi. Also, you'd better watch your words. Otherwise, I think I'll have to contact my lawyer and teach you what defamation is. Yu Keming looked at Chen Zhao coldly. Actually, the matter was already very obvious, but the two policemen had never seen someone with such a good attitude. Fake foreigner, the policewoman snorted softly. Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow. Officer, your female colleague seems to have something against me. The male officer was clearly more experienced than the policewoman. He chuckled. She's not targeting anyone. Sir, you don't have to put yourself in her shoes. Plus, it's only your side of the story, so I need you both to come back to the station with me to assist in the investigation. You still need to go back to the station? Isn't it obvious already? It's not up to you to decide, the policewoman said. Then can I call my lawyer? Chen Zhao asked. Sure. Although the policewoman didn't like Chen Zhao, he wasn't brought to the station as a suspect. Even she could only bring Chen Zhao in the name of assisting in the investigation. Moreover, the police in China were much gentler than abroad. Unless it was a serious crime or a special criminal, they would be restrained and not allowed to make a phone call. Officer, I need treatment. I need to check my injuries. Are you bringing him to the hospital or should I? The male officer asked. You bring him to the hospital. I'll bring him to the station, the policewoman said. Chen Zhao glanced at Yu Keming. Yu Keming was holding his forehead, but when he looked at Chen Zhao, his eyes were filled with hatred. Just you wait. I'm going to sue you. Chapter 2666. Chen Zhao sat in the policewoman's police car. Put your feet down. The policewoman watched as Chen Zhao sat cross-legged in the back seat. Her expression darkened. Are you embarrassing Chinese like this when you're abroad? It's my car. I can sit however I want. This isn't your car. The policewoman stared at Chen Zhao with a dark expression. I'm helping the investigation, right? I'm not a suspect. Logically speaking, you should be the one begging me. Helping the investigation sounds nice, the policewoman said coldly. Actually, you're no different from a suspect. Logically speaking, that has nothing to do with me. Even if I did, it would be self-defense. In China, you only know how to defend yourself. Why do I feel like you're filled with hostility toward me? Do we know each other? Or is there something between us? No, I just don't like you. As a policewoman, shouldn't you look at everyone objectively? My personal emotions do not affect my judgment of the case, nor do they affect my judgment of people. Then you have to tell me how I offended you, right? You didn't offend me. I just hate you. That's all. That's all. Before this, I didn't even know you. Chen Zhao was really confused. There had to be a reason why he was hated for no reason, right? Chen Zhao glanced at the policewoman. Is it because I've been abroad? The policewoman's expression changed instantly. Chen Zhao froze. Did I really guess it right? Don't tell me you were dumped by a guy who used going abroad as an excuse. Shut up. The policewoman flew into a rage out of humiliation. I really guessed it right. Qin Zhao laughed. I told you to shut up. He really used going abroad as an excuse to dump you? The policewoman's chest heaved up and down. Finally, she couldn't hold it in anymore and tears welled up in her eyes. However, she didn't want Qin Zhao to see it. She turned her head and secretly wiped away her tears. Seeing that the policewoman was crying, Qin Zhao immediately stopped joking. What's that guy's name? If I see him next time, I'll beat him up for you. The policewoman didn't say anything and just kept driving. After a few minutes, the policewoman finally said, we grew up together and confirmed our relationship in high school. 2 years ago, he wanted to study abroad. Before he left, he told me to wait for him. The policewoman choked and said, but last year, he said he got married. In order to get a green card, he married a foreign woman. In the end, he only said sorry. Cough cough, who the fuck wants his apology? I don't need sorry. Do you need a tissue? The policewoman took the tissue and suddenly turned her head. Where did you get the tissue? I carry it with me. Is there a problem? Do you carry a box of tissues with you? The officer looked at Qin Zhao cautiously. Qin Zhao was holding a box of tissues. No matter how she looked at it, it didn't seem like it could fit on his body. Oh, I picked it up from the ground. Qin Zhao shrugged. It's just a box of tissues. Why are you so nervous? Don't you think you should look straight when you're driving? The policewoman's eyes flashed as she looked at Qin Zhao. She didn't find anything suspicious. You'd better behave yourself. How am I behaving? Qin Zhao didn't care. Oh, where did that guy go? California, I think it's Los Angeles. Oh, what a coincidence. I'm also in Los Angeles. What's he doing overseas? I don't know, but he's studying finance. Suddenly, the policewoman slammed on the brakes. What are you doing? I drove the wrong way, the policewoman said awkwardly. Qin Zhao was speechless. You're a local. How could you drive the wrong way? Do you know how to speak human language? I'm the People's Police, not a local. Okay, People's Police. Find the way quickly. Are you in a hurry to confess to the police? I don't want to waste too much time on the road. Your people will think that I ran away. Qin Zhao rolled down the window. Where are we? The policewoman also rolled down the window, also confused. Then she opened the navigation on her phone. People's Police, are you kidding me? Qin Zhao mocked her. Shut up. Shanghai is so big. Even if you're a local, you might not have been to every place. No need to explain. Explaining is covering up, and covering up is making up stories. The policewoman's face darkened. My phone doesn't have signal. Where's yours? Qin Zhao took out his phone and looked. Mine doesn't have signal either. That's weird. Look around. We should still be in the city. With the current coverage of signal bases in the country, almost every populated area had a signal base. Not to mention, there were no blind spots in the city. Don't tell me you got too excited and drove out of the city? This doesn't look like a city. It looks more like a demolished old city. The policewoman tried to restart the car, but it didn't respond at all. The policewoman glanced at Qin Zhao and opened the door to get out. Don't get out. Before she could finish, Qin Zhao had already gotten out. Are you ignoring my words? This place looks weird, Qin Zhao said. Haven't you realized? This doesn't look like a place for people to live. If it's not for people, then ghosts? The policewoman rolled her eyes. You've lived abroad for 2 years. Have you forgotten all about materialism? Foreigners are more superstitious than locals. Qin Zhao said, chuckling. However, he was also a little confused. This place didn't look normal, very abnormal. Had they accidentally barged in here? Or had someone dragged them here on purpose? I don't feel comfortable here. How about we go back to the car and see if it can start? Coward. The policewoman glanced at Qin Zhao. I'm not coward. I'm just cautious. If you're scared, then you're scared. Why find so many excuses? Do you watch horror movies? What are you trying to say? Don't you think the situation is very similar to a horror movie? Two cannon fodder barged into some death zone and became real cannon fodder. Don't scare yourself. The policewoman wasn't scared at all. Chen Zhao couldn't persuade her at all. The policewoman glanced at Chen Zhao beside her. What? Aren't you afraid of death? Why you here? It's a horror movie. If I want to go back to the car alone, something horrible will happen to me. The policewoman suddenly looked up at the abandoned building on the left. What's wrong? I think I heard someone scream in the building. Are you hallucinating? I didn't hear anything. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. No, I really heard it. Chen Zhao looked at the policewoman. His hearing was definitely much better than hers. But he didn't hear anything. Chapter 2667. Chen Zhao was sure that the policewoman didn't hear it. There was no reason she could hear it, but he couldn't. You must have heard it wrong. I didn't. How could I? I heard it very clearly, the policewoman said with certainty. Chen Zhao felt a little stifled. Chen Zhao felt a little stifled. He couldn't persuade the girl to come back. Don't you think that this is the plot of a supernatural movie? Shut up. The policewoman glared at Chen Zhao. Are you that scared of ghosts? Of course. You're not scared of ghosts? You're not because you've never seen one before. Oh, so you're scared of ghosts because you've seen one before? You wouldn't believe me even if I said I've seen one before. Clang. The policewoman kicked open the door on the first floor. She kicked a hole in the wooden door. The policewoman reached her hand in through the hole and unlocked the door. We're trespassing, right? There's a ghost living in this shitty place. Maybe it really is a ghost's place. Are you done? There weren't houses on either side of the street. It was probably an abandoned commercial street. Chen Zhao followed the policewoman into the house and went up the stairs to the second floor. The second floor had probably been used as an indoor shop. There was a passageway with many compartments on both sides. These had all been used as small shops in the past. However, it was already empty now. All that was left was empty and the ground was littered with trash. Just then, Chen Zhao and the policewoman saw a figure at the end of the passageway. The figure was sitting on a chair. It was clearly in the dim passageway. However, the figure was very eye-catching. It was so eye-catching that it made one's hair stand on end. Chen Zhao frowned. He could see the figure, but he couldn't feel it. Moreover, Chen Zhao realized that he couldn't see it clearly at all. Was it a ghost from China? Chen Zhao wasn't sure, but the figure didn't give him a good feeling. Perhaps because he didn't know, Chen Zhao was very cautious. The policewoman didn't think too much. She strode forward. Hey there, the policewoman called loudly. However, when she was less than 10 feet away from the figure became fainter and fainter. In the end, it disappeared. The policewoman was stunned. In that instant, she broke out in a cold sweat. Pa. The policewoman's shoulder was heavily padded, and she screamed in fear. You know fear too? Chen Zhao stood behind the policewoman. Ghost. A ghost. I saw. Chen Zhao looked at the policewoman mockingly. Weren't you not afraid earlier? The policewoman's expression was very ugly. Maybe I'm just seeing things. I don't think I'm seeing things. I also saw that figure just now, and then it disappeared. I don't think it's possible that both of us are seeing things at the same time. The policewoman's expression became even more bitter. You really saw it too. So, this is obviously the plot of a horror movie. The policewoman shivered. Let's get out of here. How could he leave so casually after entering this place? When the two of them tried to leave, they realized that the road behind them had changed. Even Chen Zhao looked confused, because even he did not notice when the road behind him had changed. Ghost hits the wall. This is ghost hits the wall. We can't get out. The policewoman sobbed. Her face was full of sadness. She was not as strong as she looked. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes and released his little world. But he did not feel anything. It was a desolate place. There seemed to be nothing. Let's go, Chen Zhao said. We can't just wait here. Let's walk around and maybe we can find the way out. What if we can't find the way? There are windows here. This is only the second floor. We won't die even if we jump down. The policewoman looked at a cubicle. I don't think there are windows here. Is this an alternate space? Chen Zhao was confused. To be honest, Chen Zhao was also very curious about Chinese spells. After all, Chen Zhao was also an expert in alternate spaces. But now, he had actually been pulled into this area that seemed to be an alternate space without a sound. It was either that the person was extremely powerful, or that the person's spells were strange and Chen Zhao was not familiar with them. But Chen Zhao did not mind trying. Chen Zhao walked into the cubicle and tried to push. Crash! The wall collapsed instantly, revealing a huge hole. The policewoman's eyeballs almost popped out. This wall is too loose. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. It's a jerry-built project. Maybe that's why this place was demolished. The wall was not real. It was probably just a facade. There was some kind of energy inside, probably an earth spell. Chen Zhao did not use too much strength. He only used a bit more strength than breaking the wall. Chen Zhao had thought that the wall formed by this spell would be very hard. But that was not the case. It was indeed a bit harder than a wall made of bricks and soil. But it was only a bit harder. It was far from being invincible. It was also not strong enough to block Chen Zhao's strength. Just then, somewhere outside the area, a Taoist priest suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The priest's face paled. Damn, that person is also a cultivator. That bastard Yukeming. He tricked me. Suddenly, the priest spat out another mouthful of blood. Again. Fuck, that bastard wants to break my small world. Wah. As he spoke, the priest spat out another mouthful of blood. His mouth was like a water faucet. Large amounts of blood sprayed out like crazy. The small world was his unique spell. It opened up an alternate space that was neither too big nor too small. However, normally speaking, if one didn't have enough cultivation, they wouldn't be able to maintain a separate space. But his sect took a different approach. It fused one's natal primordial spirit with the alternate space. It was like a natal dharma treasure, which could be controlled at will. But the disadvantage was also obvious. It was not lethal enough. It would be easy to trap a normal person. It might not scare them to death, but it would at least prevent them from escaping. They could starve to death. But what about trapping a cultivator? Sorry, but no cultivator had a good temper. He could cause great destruction in the small world. It was almost as if he was being punched in the chest. Chen Zhao did not know that much, but this was his usual practice. Chen Zhao didn't have any other abilities, but he was good at destruction. Behind a wall or a wall, it did not matter. This was not a problem for Chen Zhao. He just had to punch. Chapter 2668. Chen Zhao didn't care too much. The policewoman tried to smash open the wall like Chen Zhao had. But reality proved that the wall was pretty hard. At least, she couldn't make the wall collapse with one push like Chen Zhao. This is the difference between men and women. The policewoman glared at Chen Zhao, somewhat annoyed, but she didn't say anything in the end. You're not scared now? Weren't you afraid of ghosts just now? If the ghost appears before me, why would I be scared if it doesn't? Actually, Chen Zhao was confused too. It didn't matter if the ghost was coming for him or the policewoman beside him. It should at least show its face and say some harsh words, right? Why didn't it show its face from beginning to end? It didn't even greet them. Apart from the scary ghost at the beginning, it didn't seem to do anything else. Was the ghost hoping to scare the two of them to death with that thing? Wasn't that too much of a joke? Bang! Chen Zhao pushed open another wall. The policewoman didn't think too much about it. She just felt that Chen Zhao was strong. Plus, he wasn't small either. At least, for Chinese people, 182 centimeters was already considered tall. Just then, a bright ray of light shone in from the hole. It was the light of dawn. It made one feel warm from the inside out. There were no people outside and they were still in an abandoned street. But that kind of feeling made people feel comfortable. Chen Zhao was also confused. Who had done this? He didn't feel anything at all. Moreover, the ghost's actions seemed to be a bit anticlimactic. At the start, the atmosphere was already very good. But there was no actual action. It was like the two of them had been thrown into that strange space. Then it let them out easily. Chen Zhao jumped down from the hole first. Then he looked back at the policewoman. Jump down. I'll catch you. No need. The policewoman's cold expression returned. But the height was only 3 meters. It wasn't much for her. The light of dawn dispelled the darkness and gave her courage. The policewoman was agile. She landed lightly on the ground. Her movements were very beautiful. Just then, the policewoman's phone rang. Rolling, where are you? Did something happen? No. I got lost. I'll go back now. Are you sure? Where's that overseas returnee? He's beside me. Do you want breakfast? No need. The phrase colleague was actually a secret code. If something really happened to her, she would answer yes. After hanging up, the two of them walked toward the police car. From afar, he saw a person standing beside the police car. The man was wearing a black hanfu, which was embroidered with an unknown beast pattern with golden thread. The man raised his head and stared at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao and the policewoman couldn't help but pause. The officer turned to look at him. You know him? I don't know him. At that moment, the man in the traditional Chinese attire suddenly opened his palm. There was a red powder in his palm. He put it to his mouth and blew at the two of them. The instant the red powder flew out, it turned into a strange beast that pounced towards the two of them. Careful. Chen Zhao immediately pulled the officer away. The beast's target wasn't the policewoman. Instead, it pounced at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao raised his fist and punched at the pouncing beast. But Chen Zhao's fist missed. The beast didn't have a physical body at all. It dissipated directly. It was as if nothing had happened. The policewoman raised her head. What just happened? Where's that person? Chen Zhao was also surprised. Only after hearing the policewoman's words did he realize that the man in the traditional Chinese attire had disappeared. What kind of person was this strange fellow? Was he behind last night's incident too? But why did he end up like this again? The spell just now seemed extraordinary, but it actually didn't have any destructive power. The policewoman looked at Chen Zhao in shock. You saw it too, right? That guy blew out the powder and it turned into a red beast. You saw it wrong. It didn't happen. Chen Zhao denied it directly. The policewoman frowned at him. You saw it clearly. You know what happened, right? I'm a firm atheist. Don't talk to me about supernatural things. The policewoman's face darkened. She stared at Chen Zhao. Be honest. Do you know that guy? Even if you point a gun at my head right now, I don't know what's going on, Chen Zhao said calmly. The policewoman couldn't do anything to someone like Chen Zhao. The police car could be started again. The policewoman quickly brought Chen Zhao back to the police station. Rolling, you're finally back. The male police officer from before quickly walked toward Rolling. At the same time, he saw Chen Zhao walking in unhurriedly. Why did you guys take 2 hours to get there? The male officer asked in a low voice. The car broke down on the way, Rolling answered calmly. We were delayed. Then why didn't you call? Also, when I called you earlier, your phone wasn't in the service area. There's no signal at that part of the city. There's no signal in the city? Okay, stop asking so many questions, Rolling said impatiently. Chen Zhao pulled a chair over and crossed his legs on the desk beside him. Rolling glared at Chen Zhao. Put your legs down. What procedure? Hurry up. I'm starving. Rolling wasn't happy with Chen Zhao's attitude. However, he still followed the procedure and made a statement for Chen Zhao. At the same time, they got the hotel's surveillance footage. From the footage, Chen Zhao indeed didn't do anything. However, Rolling and her colleagues still saw something suspicious. Chen Zhao's legs seemed to have moved, but he was too fast. Yu Keming happened to block the angle of the footage too. So, they didn't see what effect Chen Zhao's kick had. They noticed Chen Zhao's little action, but it couldn't be used as evidence. That guy isn't a good person, the male police officer said meaningfully. Look at his methods. He's clearly an expert. We can't help it. We can only detain him for 24 hours at most, Rolling said with a dark expression. She knew that the kick had caused Yu Keming to lose his balance and smash his head, but she couldn't do anything to him. Thinking of Chen Zhao's annoying face, she was even more annoyed. I'm afraid we can't even do it for 24 hours. the male police officer said with a bitter smile. He saw a few people walk in. He knew one of them. It was the famous lawyer in the city, Wei Dan. They'd met a few times before, so they could be considered old acquaintances. There were a few women beside Wei Dan. One of them was a particularly beautiful foreign woman. Chapter 2669. Darling. Seeing Chen Zhao come out, Fei Lai went up and hugged him. Rolling pursed her lips, displeased. Darling, what's going on? Nothing, it's just a misunderstanding, Chen Zhao said with a smile. At the same time, he gave Fei Lai a look. This is Mr. Wei, Fei Lai said. Alex contacted him. He should be the best lawyer here. Hello, Mr. Chen. Wei Dan went up and shook hands with Chen Zhao. Can you tell me what exactly happened? Let me tell you. Rolling walked up and said, this guy tripped someone and injured them at the same time. Officer, do you have any evidence? Smiling, Chen Zhao turned to look at Rolling. It's hard to tell from the surveillance, Rolling said confidently. But I can tell. Chen Zhao laughed. Wei Dan laughed too. I'm taking my client away now. He can't leave yet. Why? He's suspected of intentional injury. Excessive self-defense. Wei Dan shook her head. Unless you file a criminal lawsuit, I have the right to take my client away. You, Rolling, forget it? Her colleague pulled her back. She looked at Chen Zhao. You better not fall into my hands. If you can go to America, I'll be very happy, Chen Zhao said with a smile. Looking at Chen Zhao, Rolling gritted her teeth, but there was nothing she could do. After leaving the police station, Yi Ziqing and Zhang Ting both had troubled expressions. Mr. Chen, I'm sorry to have caused you trouble. It's not trouble. It's just a small matter. To Chen Zhao, it wasn't a big deal. Going to the police station was a common occurrence for him. Chen Zhao looked around and saw a breakfast stall in front of the station. Do you guys want breakfast? I've already eaten, Fei Lai said. Chen Zhao looked at the others. What about you guys? I don't eat breakfast, Wei Dan said with a professional smile. With a professional smile, Wei Dan said, Mr. Chen, if you have any legal problems in China, you can contact me at any time. Also, I have a lot of cooperation projects with Ms. Alex. Please send her my regards. I still have something to do, so I'll be leaving first. I will. Goodbye. You guys go back to the car first. I'll go eat some breakfast. Chen Zhao was really hungry. One of them ran to the breakfast stall and took out a piece of paper. Boss, give me a few buns and a big bowl of wontons. Young man, I don't have the change. It's okay. I've eaten a lot. I'll get more later. Chen Zhao really did eat a lot. He ate a few buns in one bite and poured a big bowl of steaming wontons into his mouth. The breakfast stall owner's eyes widened. Young man, it's not hot? Hot and comfortable. Give me another bowl. Bring a basket of buns over. Chen Zhao ate happily. Soon he stopped eating breakfast in China. This big bowl made him feel sincerely satisfied. However, this amount was not enough to fill his stomach. Then, Chen Zhao finished all the food in the entire breakfast stall. He gave him 10 pieces of paper. Then, under the shocked expression of the breakfast stall owner, Chen Zhao stood up and left as if nothing had happened. Boss, 2 buns and a bag of soy milk. When Rolling came out of the station, she realized that the breakfast stall owner was actually packing up. No, they're all sold out. Are you kidding? It's only 7. You're already sold out? Rolling was a regular customer of the breakfast stall. After all, it was right outside the police station. The people in the station would basically come here every morning. Usually, the owner would only pack up at around 8:30. It's not even 7:30 today. Why did the boss start to pack up? I'm not kidding. A young man just came out of your station and ate all my breakfast by himself. Our station? How immoral. I don't think he's from your station. He doesn't look familiar and there are a few girls with him. One of them is even a big girl. Rolling's face darkened. She knew who it was without guessing. He packed up the rest of them? No, he finished it all by himself at the stall, leaving nothing behind. I've never seen someone with such an appetite. I reckon he must have eaten the portion of 20 or 30 people's portions. Enchanting, are there any food streets in Shanghai? There are many. Boss, do you want to go? I'm just greedy, Qin Zhao said honestly. And I didn't eat enough from the breakfast stall. Then I'll take you there in the afternoon, Zhang Ting said. In the afternoon? It's not open in the morning. There's nothing to eat there. At noon, Qin Zhao made do with a meal in the hotel restaurant. I made do with a meal. Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing watched as Qin Zhao wolfed down the food. They were really worried that his stomach would explode. Only Fei Lai looked indifferent. She and Portia took care of the kids while eating. Thankfully, Qin Zhao had booked the entire restaurant at this time, so no one saw his monstrous table manners. Waiter, hurry up and serve the food. Qin Zhao snapped his fingers. Just then, the restaurant manager ran over, sweating profusely. I'm sorry, sir. We don't have enough food. Not enough food? Didn't your restaurant prepare more ingredients? The manager wanted to cry. We did. But Qin Zhao ate enough food for dozens of people. We're not roadside stalls. We only prepared enough food for dozens of people. Darling, you still have to go to the food street in the afternoon, Fei Lai said. Don't eat too much or you'll lose your appetite. Okay, that's it for now. Qin Zhao glanced at the manager. I'm booking the entire restaurant after 7. You better prepare more food. Okay, sir. The manager was speechless. Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing were already dumbfounded. They followed Qin Zhao out of the restaurant. Boss, how about we rest in the hotel and go to the food street another time? No, I'm not full yet. Boss, how much did you eat just now? You're not full yet? Zhang Ting didn't know how much Qin Zhao had eaten. The waiters kept bringing more food, but Qin Zhao had finished most of it. I have a big appetite. Huaihai Road. Zhang Ting, Yi Ziqing, and Qin Zhao stood at the entrance. The first thing they saw was a Japanese ramen shop on the side of the road. There was a sign on the door of Jimmy's Japanese Ramen. There was a super appetite challenge on the sign. Whoever could finish a bowl of super ramen in 20 minutes would be free of charge for the rest of the meal. However, if they couldn't finish it in 20 minutes, they would have to pay the full price. Chapter 2670. 30 minutes later, the waiters of the Japanese ramen shop all stared at Qin Zhao, dumbfounded. The boss was about to cry. How much was super ramen? It was about the size of a regular person's basin. Then Qin Zhao finished it in 3 minutes. The time limit for the super condition was 20 minutes. Ever since the Japanese ramen shop started, no one had been able to complete this challenge. Each bowl of super ramen cost 1,288 yuan. And today, this challenge had met its greatest enemy. Finishing the challenge in 3 minutes already showed how powerful this person was. But in the next 30 minutes, he ordered 10 bowls of super ramen. Then Qin Zhao's stomach was like a bottomless pit. Every time Qin Zhao ate a bowl of super ramen, the owner would lose more than $1,000. Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing didn't know what to say anymore. Boss, give me 3 more bowls. Qin Zhao was rich, but who wouldn't like free food? Qin Zhao didn't have the dignity of a billionaire at all. Free food was an insult to them. Bro, are you eating from a rich person? The boss couldn't help but say. Bro, I'm begging you. Go to another shop. Bro, I'm begging you. Go to another shop. No, your ramen has enough portions. It's really good. See that skewer shop across the street? If you can eat 300 skewers, not only will it be free, but you'll also get a lifetime membership. The boss's trick was very immoral, but he had no choice. If Qin Zhao ate more, his ramen shop would go bankrupt. They're having an event too? Qin Zhao raised his head and looked at the skewer shop across the street. Although it was only afternoon, the shop was already packed with people. I have to line up. I'll get someone to line up for you, the boss said hurriedly. The owner of the ramen shop fully demonstrated that it was better for him to die than for himself. Qin Zhao finally smiled in satisfaction. A while later, Qin Zhao changed his position. The waiters of the skewer shop clearly didn't know that the demon had arrived. They served Qin Zhao, Zhang Ting, and Yi Ziqing enthusiastically. But an hour later, the shop was in chaos. Even the original customers stopped eating. They surrounded Chen Zhao to see how much he could eat. Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing lowered their heads. They were not used to such an atmosphere. They could no longer describe Chen Zhao's appetite. How much had Chen Zhao eaten since morning? Was his stomach a bottomless pit? Then Chen Zhao was asked out of the kebab shop. The temple was too small to accommodate such a great Buddha. Chen Zhao was here to ruin the store. After that, the news spread throughout the entire street. The stores that originally had Big Eater King events all canceled their own events. If such a demon king found his shop, would he still be able to open his shop? Although he didn't have the Big Stomach King discount. However, Chen Zhao didn't plan to give up. He continued eating. If you two are bored, Chen Zhao said, you can go to my shop. I'll walk around here alone. Zhang Ting and Yi Ziqing didn't want to stay with him anymore. It was mainly because Chen Zhao's table manners gave them too much pressure. Chen Zhao found a restaurant and started stuffing himself with food again. By now, Chen Zhao had also discovered the problem with his body. He'd already eaten so much, but his hunger couldn't be satisfied. Chen Zhao couldn't calm down due to this strange hunger. He could only eat to ease it. Hey, Zhang, I think there's something wrong with my body. What's wrong? I don't know, Chen Zhao said. I'm always hungry. Hungry? Zhang Tianyi didn't understand. Yes, Chen Zhao said. I've eaten enough food for a few hundred people since morning, but I'm still not satisfied. This has exceeded my maximum appetite. I have to compress the food before I eat. Otherwise, I'll be stuffed to death. That's right. Did you get hit by any spells in the past 2 days? Chen Zhao thought for a moment. I think I was hit by one this morning. I don't know if it worked. Chen Zhao roughly told them what had happened in the morning. Strange. You said you were trapped in a strange area. Why do I feel like it was a spell from the 7 Imperial sect? And the person you met after leaving the area is clearly different from the one who trapped you. Zhang Tianyi said, it feels like the dragon tiger killing technique of the Naojin sect. However, although the dragon tiger killing technique of the Naojin sect can imitate the shape of a beast with magic power, it is a method of fighting head-on. It doesn't have the ability to cast spells. Can you solve it? I don't know your exact situation yet. You're not in a good condition right now. You better come to Dragon Tiger Mountain quickly. I'll check and dispel the spell for you. Chen Zhao fell into deep thought. He'd been very unwilling at first. But now, there was something wrong with his body. Then Zhang Tianyi would have a chance to control him. And now, Chen Zhao could clearly feel it. His body wasn't in a good condition. The hunger was gradually intensifying. Okay, I'll go to Dragon Tiger Mountain. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and finally made up his mind. He was worried that the hunger would make him lose his mind. He was worried that he'd lose control and hurt his family. In the afternoon, Chen Zhao went through the entire street. As for how much he'd eaten in the afternoon, he didn't know either. Anyway, he'd spent a few $1,000s in each store. Zhang Ding, it's done. Done? That easy? Zhang Ding was surprised. He'd thought that he'd have to spend some effort to find this person. He didn't think that it'd be done in one night. He knew how terrifying that person's strength was. You should know the methods of the Mound Mountain sect. How is he now? He's been hit by my dirty technique. In 3 days he'll go crazy and lose control. Then, you and I won't need to do anything. Someone will naturally take care of him for you. Can your dirty technique really take care of him? He's not weak. If he survives this, with his personality, both you and I will be in big trouble. Dirty technique can't be cured. Are you sure? If you don't believe me, you can try it yourself, but I can't guarantee your safety. Okay, I believe you. I'll transfer the rest of the money to your account. Thanks. Chapter 2671. To be honest, he really regretted coming back. Originally, he thought that no matter what identity he used to return, it could be said to be foolproof. With his current wealth, he could go anywhere he wanted. As for his strength, there were only a few people in the world who could defeat him. This time, he even came back with some curiosity. He wanted to see what was so special about the Huaxia spirit world. Then, when he came back, he found that what he was confident in had been trampled underfoot. Chen Zhao had originally thought that apart from Zhang Tianyi, there was no one else in China. Almost no one could hurt him with magic. But now, he had been tricked. Chen Zhao hadn't left the hotel since that night. He didn't let Fei Lai and the others worry. He didn't intend to tell them about this either. If Fei Lai couldn't solve her own problem, it would only make her worry more. The next day, Chen Zhao started overeating again. The waiters in the hotel restaurant were already used to it. Chen Zhao didn't choose a mealtime either. To avoid trouble, Chen Zhao gave everyone in the restaurant a large sum of money. At this moment, an uninvited guest entered the restaurant. "Waiter! I told you not to let a dog enter my sight when I'm eating," Chen Zhao yelled. Yu Keming, who had just entered the restaurant, froze. At this moment, the waiter had already walked over. "Sir, our restaurant has been booked. It's not convenient for us to receive guests. Please understand." Yu Keming looked at Chen Zhao. He had been waiting outside the hotel for 2 days. However, he realized that Chen Zhao hadn't left the hotel in the past 2 days. He thought that Chen Zhao must have been scared out of his wits, which was why he hadn't left the hotel. The person he hired must have succeeded. "Mr. Chen, don't you want to talk? Otherwise, it'll be easy to run into ghosts again." Yu Keming shouted at Chen Zhao's back without hiding anything. Chen Zhao had been gluttonous. He suddenly stopped eating. "Let him come," Chen Zhao said. Yu Keming straightened his collar. If it weren't for the bandage on his forehead, he would be in a good mood. Yu Keming walked to Chen Zhao's seat. He noticed that Chen Zhao's mental state wasn't right. Chen Zhao's eyes were bloodshot. There were dark circles around his eyes. Seeing Chen Zhao's current state, Yu Keming smiled even more happily. "Looks like this bastard is really scared. Mr. Chen, have you heard of this saying? What is it? Never do anything shameful. What's the next sentence?" Yu Keming looked at Chen Zhao proudly. "I'm not afraid of ghosts knocking at night," Chen Zhao added. "Trust me, you won't meet someone who has done too many shameful things just once." "Who is that person?" Chen Zhao asked directly, not wanting to beat around the bush with Yu Keming. There are some things that you'd better not know. There are some people that people like you can't come into contact with." Yu Keming sneered. Chen Zhao lowered his head and started eating the chicken again. Yu Keming frowned at him. Was this guy scared silly? From just now until now, his behavior had been a little strange. He kept eating. How much had he eaten since then? "Aren't you afraid of bursting to death?" After a long while, Chen Zhao said again, "If I don't have the right to come into contact with people like that, you have even less right." At this moment, Yu Keming's patience had almost run out. He roared in a low voice, "Do you want to live or die?" Chen Zhao raised his head slowly and stared at Yu Keming with his bloodshot eyes. Chen Zhao snapped his fingers and a waiter came to him. "Sir, what can I do for you?" Chen Zhao stuffed a check into the waiter's hand. "It's yours." Seeing the amount on the check, the waiter trembled all over. "This is too much. I have money, but I don't like being threatened. I can give it to whoever I want." Chen Zhao glanced at the waiter. "If you don't want it, you can tear it up." This 1 million is really for me." Chen Zhao ignored the waiter's trembling voice. He just stared at Yu Keming with an aggressive gaze. "No one can take it away if I don't want to give it to them. It's useless to force me or threaten me. Sir, do you want me to beat him up?" The waiter suddenly glared at Yu Keming. At this moment, he had completely become Chen Zhao's lackey. In this day and age, whoever had a woman was a mother and whoever had money was a lord. He was very willing to beat Yu Keming up for Chen Zhao. "No need. The bank isn't closed yet. Go and exchange it. It's not safe to keep this check on you." Chen Zhao stood up, laughing. "You'll regret it." Yu Keming gritted his teeth and stared at Chen Zhao. It seemed that the guy wouldn't know fear if he didn't teach him a lesson. Yu Keming left angrily. After leaving the hotel, he took out his phone. However, when he dialed the number, there was no answer. Fuck, what does that D*Ned Cow mean by this? He's not picking up my call? Do you think you can avoid me like this? Yu Keming knew where the Taoist lived. In fact, their relationship wasn't as simple as an employee. In his early years, Yu Keming had a good family background. He could be considered a descendant of an influential family. His elders had relied on their relationship with the Seven Imperial School to obtain power and wealth later on. Yu Keming had also known at that time that there were still some unknown secrets in this world. In order to deepen their relationship, the flourishing Yu family had even chosen a talented child from the family and sent him to the Seven Imperial School. This child was Yu Keming's cousin, Yu Kui, the Taoist he'd found to attack Qinzhao. But later, the Yu family declined. Yu Kui wanted to regain his wealth, but he was a good-for-nothing with high ambitions. Yu Keming met his cousin, Yu Kui again. At that time, Yu Kui had helped Yu Keming solve a problem. From then on, whenever Yu Keming had any trouble, he'd ask Yu Kui for help. As time went by, the two of them became employers and employees. However, Yu Keming's only thought was how to get rich. However, getting rich wasn't something that could be achieved just by relying on crooked means. Yu Kui and Yu Keming were similar in temperament. Birds of a feather flocked together. Moreover, the Seven Imperial School wasn't a proper sect. They'd been influenced since they were young. Yu Kui hadn't learned well since he was young. Over the years, he'd helped Yu Keming a few times. He'd even gotten someone killed. But Yu Kui's methods weren't ordinary. He'd never been caught. Plus, he had the Seven Imperial School's protection, so everything had been smooth for him. He lived a carefree life. Chapter 2672. Yu Kui was currently healing at home. This was because the alternate dimension that had fused with his primordial spirit was in a mess. As a result, his mind was in a mess. His soul was injured, which made it difficult for him to even focus. His mana was greatly reduced too. Thus, Yu Kui had been in seclusion for the past 2 days. He hid in this remote house to rest. Actually, Yu Kui's injuries seemed serious, but they weren't actually that bad. As long as Yu Kui focused on healing, he would be fine in 3 to 5 months. After all, the injuries weren't fatal and there wouldn't be any side effects. However, Yu Kui still felt uneasy these past 2 days. It was as if something was about to happen. Yu Kui was from the spiritual world. Something was bound to happen when one felt something. To put it bluntly, spiritualists both at home and abroad all believed in heavenly perception. That flash of spiritual light seemed illusory, but it could affect a person's decision. Thankfully, the Seven Imperial School was in the suburbs of Shanghai. It wasn't far from where he lived. Right now, Yu Kui, who was healing, suddenly stopped and frowned. That uneasy feeling came back to him again. This time, the feeling was much stronger than the previous few times. Yu Kui immediately stood up. He picked up his phone and dialed his teacher's number. "Master, are you in the sect?" "Yes, what's up?" "I need to go back. Can you open the gate for me?" "Why aren't you having fun outside? Why are you back? Did you get into trouble outside?" "I got injured outside. I need to go back and hide for a while." Yu Kui didn't hide it. "Okay, we'll talk when you get back." After hanging up, Yu Kui drove to the gate. On the way, Yu Kui's phone rang again. "Yu Kui, where are you? I can't get through to you. You're not home either." Yu Keming was furious. He'd been bullied by Qinzhao earlier and now he was venting all of it on Yu Kui. In his eyes, Yu Kui was still the little brat who followed behind him. Yu Kui thought about how Yu Keming had tricked him earlier and was instantly infuriated. However, after thinking about it for the past few days, he felt that Yu Keming probably didn't know that person was a spiritualist. But that didn't mean he wasn't angry. He didn't intend to bother with Yu Keming in the first place. On one hand, Yu Keming didn't have much money on hand. Moreover, Yu Keming's attitude towards him had always been that of a follower. "I'm going back to the sect," Yu Kui said calmly. "Don't go back to the sect. I still need you to help me kill that Chen guy," Yu Keming said. "I don't have the time." Yu Kui thought to himself. As expected, this fool did not know that the other party was a cultivator. "What do you mean you're not free? I'm giving you money, and you're telling me you're not free? Have you forgotten who you are?" "I've already returned to my sect. I don't have time." Yu Kui felt that it was necessary to make Yu Keming suffer a little. Therefore, he deliberately didn't tell Yu Keming about that person's identity as a cultivator. That person is very rich. As long as you help me deal with that person, his money will be mine. I told you, I'm busy. Yu Kui said angrily. He got angry whenever money was mentioned. Yu Keming completely treated him like a beggar. Every time he helped him solve a big problem, the money he gave him was only enough for him to eat and wear. Not to mention going out and having fun, it was only enough for his living expenses. And every time, Yu Keming would spend lavishly. Yu Kui had long been dissatisfied. It was just that Yu Kui had never exploded before. Now, Yu Kui realized that he didn't even need to do anything. There was already someone who could do it for him. Of course, he was happy to watch the show from the side. He wanted to see Yu Keming suffer and then come to him to ask for help. That scene would definitely be very beautiful. If you don't want to help me, then forget it. I'll find someone from your sect to help. Yu Keming heard Yu Kui's evasions. He was even more displeased. As expected, they were all a bunch of ungrateful bastards. The education that Yu Keming received from a young age was incompatible with his current status. Naturally, his thoughts were extreme. He never thought about how he treated others. He only thought about why others didn't help him. Yu Keming knew where the 7 Imperial School was. In the past, when his family chose people to send to the 7 Imperial School, he was one of them. But at that time, he wasn't the one chosen, but Yu Kui. Thus, Yu Keming was familiar with the 7 Imperial School. Yu Keming headed straight for the 7 Imperial School. The 7 Imperial School wasn't really remote. It was less than 100 kilometers away from the city. But after leaving the city, he needed to go around a country road. After a few turns, Yu Keming arrived in front of a mountain valley. Yu Keming got out of the car and didn't continue forward. Yu Kui, I'm at the entrance of your sect. Come out and pick me up. What? You ran to the entrance of our 7 Imperial School? Yu Kui asked in shock. That's right, hurry up. Yu Keming urged. Weren't you at my house earlier? Why did you get to the 7 Imperial School faster than me? Yu Kui was very confused. Had Yu Keming been speeding the entire time? With his driving skills, if he really did that, the car would have crashed and he would have died. You aren't back yet? Yu Keming was a little surprised. Logically speaking, Yu Kui had set off earlier than him, so he should have returned earlier. Moreover, Yu Keming didn't feel like he was driving very fast. Wait for me, I'll be there soon, Yu Kui said. Hurry up. Yu Keming clearly still maintained his identity and continued to act arrogantly towards Yu Kui. Yu Kui was getting more and more annoyed. He felt that he needed to teach him a lesson. Soon, I'll be there soon. Yu Kui sped up and rushed back to the 7 Imperial School. Not long after, Yu Kui saw his cousin. Yu Kui's car had just stopped when he saw Yu Keming run over impatiently. Do you fucking dare to slow down any further? Do you know how long I've been waiting for you here? After Yu Kui got out of the car, he looked at his cousin coldly. It seemed that a little lesson was far from enough. Yu Kui had already decided to teach him a lesson that he would never forget. Yu Kui glanced at Yu Keming from the corner of his eye and took out his phone. Master, I'm at the entrance of the sect. Open the gate. Just then, Yu Keming heard an ear-piercing sound in the air. It sounded like something hard was scratching against glass. Then, the air in front of him seemed to have been cut open with a pair of scissors, revealing a hole. The scene inside the hole was completely different from the outside. This wasn't the first time Yu Keming had seen such a scene, but he had to admit that it was unbelievable. Come, let's go in. Yu Kui called out and stepped into the hole first. Master. Yu Kui was the first to see his master. Wait a moment. I'll close the gate first. Yu Kui's master was about to close the array formation of the gate. Suddenly, a hand reached in from outside the hole. Divine Emperor of the 9 Heavens. Chapter 2673. The moment the hand reached out from the hole, Lin Fan's eyes widened. A feeling that made Yu Kui and his disciples' hearts race rose up. Immediately after, the clear skies of the entire 7 Imperial School suddenly turned blood red. Who is it? Get out! Yu Kui's master, Taoist Tianluo, shot out a green light. It was a morning door nail stained with poison. But when the morning door nail hit the hand, there was only a clang. The nail fell to the ground. The hand and its owner were unharmed. Then, the person outside reached out with another hand. The two hands started tearing at the crack in the space. The entire 7 Imperial School was shaking violently. The crack grew larger and larger, even larger than the one Taoist Tianluo had opened earlier. Taoist Tianluo felt his scalp go numb. Using a pair of hands made of flesh and blood to forcefully tear open a crack in the space? This was simply unimaginable. Yu Keming's pupils suddenly contracted, because he saw the person standing outside the crack. Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao didn't look normal at the moment. His eyes were bloodshot and his body seemed a bit skinny. He looked like a hungry ghost. Who are you? How dare you cause trouble in my 7 Imperial School? Taoist Tianluo didn't attack directly. Instead, he stared at Chen Zhao, wanting to use the name of the 7 Imperial School to temporarily scare off the attacker. Chen Zhao stepped into the mountain gate of the 7 Imperial School and looked around. His small world seemed to be experiencing the same thing because he was hungry. When he was outside, nothing had happened. But here, his small world was like a wild beast that had barged in, crazily gnawing and devouring this abnormal space that was not stable and powerful to begin with. So, it wouldn't be long before this space was completely devoured by Chen Zhao's small world. Chen Zhao glared at Yu Keming with bloodshot eyes. Who did you find to ambush me that day? Chen Zhao pointed at Yu Kui and then at Taoist Tianluo. Yu Keming was so scared that he fell on his butt. He kept retreating with his back facing Chen Zhao. Quick, kill him. I'll pay as much as you want. But right now, Yu Kui didn't have any desire to attack. At this moment, he already knew who the other party was. That was the prey that Yu Keming had his eyes on. However, how was this prey? It was clearly a monster. He dared to kill his way into the 7 Imperial Gates. Disregarding his strength, at the very least, his courage was extraordinary. At this moment, more than 10 people ran out of the 7 Imperial Gates. Suddenly, a giant tiger with 7 heads and a pair of wings on its back descended from the sky. The guardian divine beasts of the 7 Imperial School, the Imperial 7 Spirits. However, in Chen Zhao's eyes, it was just a beast. How dare you? How dare you disturb my sect? Unforgivable. Unforgivable. The dozen or so people were the upper echelons of the 7 Imperial School. They were either sect masters or elders. Every single one of them had an impressive cultivation base. In the Huaxia spirit world, they would be considered top-notch experts. Seeing that an outsider had barged in, these people started yelling at Chen Zhao without any explanation. Of course, their reactions were completely normal. After all, if someone barged into Chen Zhao's house, they would definitely be killed. Chen Zhao would have the same reaction. But right now, Chen Zhao didn't seem to hear them. Instead, he looked at the 7-headed tiger demon. Everyone saw that Chen Zhao's open mouth was dripping with saliva. It was like a starving ghost discovering a delicious meal. No one liked this kind of look, not even the 7-headed tiger demon. It really didn't like it. So, after roaring, it pounced at Chen Zhao. At the same time, Chen Zhao also pounced at it. Everyone thought that Chen Zhao would be eaten alive by the 7-headed tiger demon. However, that wasn't the case. It was pressed to the ground by Chen Zhao's backhand. Then, Chen Zhao opened his mouth and bit the 7-headed tiger demon's neck. The 7-headed tiger demon let out a heart-wrenching howl. Chen Zhao tore off a piece of flesh from the 7-headed tiger demon's neck. Then he swallowed it whole. Everyone's scalps went numb. Yu Keming, in particular, was trembling all over. Was he trying to deal with this guy earlier? He was more like a monster than a monster. The 7-headed tiger demon wanted to get up and resist. However, Chen Zhao's strength was too great. It couldn't resist Chen Zhao's monstrous strength at all. How dare you? Let go of the divine beast of our sect. Seeing this, the people of the 7 Imperial School immediately attacked Chen Zhao. They threw all kinds of spells at Chen Zhao as if they were free. However, Chen Zhao wasn't moved by the spells at all. Right now, Chen Zhao only had appetite. A crazy appetite. Chen Zhao casually tore off a tiger's head. In an instant, blood splattered 10 feet. Chen Zhao tore off another piece of flesh and stuffed it into his mouth. Demon! This guy's been bewitched. Kill him now. In reality, there were no such things as evil in this era. Because of the flow of information, the evil in people's eyes had long been transparent. But now, everyone felt that the man before them was a demon. His crazed look was even more ferocious than the demons in the legends. Stop it. The seven-headed tiger demon had been tortured to the point where it only had one breath left. It couldn't even move, let alone resist Chen Zhao. There were pieces of flesh and a large patch of blood on the ground. Chen Zhao was still madly devouring the seven-headed tiger demon's flesh. A Taoist from the Seven Imperial School descended from the sky with a sharp blade and slashed at Chen Zhao's neck. Clang! The Taoist from the Seven Imperial Gate was sent flying. The blade in his hand was also missing a corner. On the other hand, Chen Zhao was unscathed. Finally, Chen Zhao took out the seven-headed tiger demon's monster core. Everyone's pupils constricted. Because if the monster core was taken out, it meant that the seven-headed tiger demon had no chance of survival. However, just when everyone thought that Chen Zhao would swallow the monster core, but Chen Zhao crushed it. Although Chen Zhao was full of appetite. However, Chen Zhao could still differentiate between edible and edible ones. In Chen Zhao's eyes, the monster core clearly belonged to the non-food category. Chen Zhao's appetite was only for food. However, in everyone's eyes, Chen Zhao was a real demon. Chen Zhao turned to look at Yu Keming. Yu Keming had already peed his pants. He really peed his pants? Who was the person you found that day? But Chen Zhao's words were interrupted again. It seems that you don't know what the Seven Imperial School does. How dare you be so presumptuous here? Do you think you can leave here alive today? Not just you, but also your family. An elder of the Seven Imperial School snorted. Actually, anyone with a bit of rationality would choose to remain silent. Provoking a madman at a time like this was clearly very irrational. Chapter 2674. Every member of the Seven Emperors School took jobs. But the jobs depended on who they took. Even if they became enemies, they had to consider the other party's identity first. For example, those with great influence in the political world wouldn't move. Or those with deep or powerful backgrounds would take a detour. But the person in front of them was a complete madman. And a terrifyingly powerful madman. Facing him head-on at a time like this was clearly a very unwise choice. The Seven Emperors School elder seemed to be overconfident. He didn't realize what consequences his stupid actions would bring him. A black ball appeared beside Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't even look at it. The black ball shot toward the Seven Emperors School elder. The Seven Emperors School elder thought that with his skills and cultivation he could easily block this unknown spell. But when the black ball pierced through his body, he realized he was wrong. When everyone saw the Seven Emperors School elders suddenly explode, they all jumped in fright. Apart from Yu Keming, everyone took the initiative to cast a few defensive spells on themselves. Yu Keming sprawled on the ground, not daring to raise his head. Don't kill me, I'll count to 3. If you don't answer my question, then it won't be a question of whether you'll die or not. To be honest, I haven't tasted human flesh yet. It's him. He encouraged me. Yu Keming wasn't the type to sacrifice himself for others. Right now, he just wanted to push the blame onto Yu Kui. He didn't want to face this fiend for a second longer. Fiendish was no longer enough to describe the person before him. Was the seven-headed tiger demon fierce enough? It was over 10 meters long and weighed dozens of tons. It had been swallowed by this person bite by bite. Especially when he heard that this person wanted to taste human flesh. Yu Keming was almost scared to death. Chen Zhao turned to Yu Kui. Yu Kui's heart was also pounding. But at least he had cultivation, so he didn't lose his composure. Yu Kui instantly felt a terrifying aura rush toward him. Not daring to hesitate, he spread his arms. An alternate dimension enveloped Chen Zhao. Last time, he could envelop Chen Zhao without making a sound. But this time, he wanted to put Chen Zhao into an alternate dimension right in front of him. Hundreds of black balls suddenly appeared around Chen Zhao. It shot directly into Yu Kui's alternate dimension. Boom boom boom. Yu Kui's alternate dimension was instantly riddled with holes. At the same time, Yu Kui's mind was also greatly shaken, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell to one knee on the ground, his face devoid of life. Chen Zhao walked up to Yu Kui step by step and looked down at him. Where's your partner? What accomplices? Don't play dumb in front of me. Chen Zhao stared coldly at Yu Kui. The person who cast the spell on me. I don't know what you're talking about. Yu Kui broke out in a cold sweat. Chen Zhao raised his arm. Yu Kui's body floated up uncontrollably. I really don't have an accomplice. Yu Kui shouted in horror. It's him, it's him. He must have hired someone else. Chen Zhao looked at Yu Keming. Don't listen to his nonsense. He's the only one I know, Yu Keming denied in panic. Chen Zhao had really wronged him this time. Apart from Yu Kui, he didn't know a second spiritualist. Moreover, Yu Kui was cheap and good. Why would Chen Zhao find another one? So, one of you is lying? Chen Zhao smiled cruelly. His smile was bone-chilling. In fact, Chen Zhao's face and body were both scarlet red. No matter what expression he made, it would still be bone-chilling. I need someone to give me an answer, Chen Zhao said coldly. An accurate answer that satisfies me. The other person will die. Who is that man in the black Han costume? Who is he? Chen Zhao's eyes widened. Yu Kui froze for a moment, then suddenly yelled, I know who that man is. Who is he? Mo Han, Yu Kui said loudly. He's a top-notch cultivator and a swindler in the top 3 assassin rankings. Yu Keming can't afford to hire Mo Han at all. Not to mention Yu Keming, even the sum of all the people in the 7 Imperial School couldn't be higher than Mo Han. The person with the highest commission in the 7 Imperial Schools was their sect leader, who took 500,000 each time. For someone like Yu Kui, it was already not bad if he took 100,000. If he met someone like Yu Keming, he might not even get 10 or 20,000. But swindler Mo Han was a true top-notch assassin in the industry. His single commission was no less than 10 million. And swindler Mo Han's trademark was that every time he appeared before his target, he wore a black hanfu. Chen Zhao was not interested in these so-called top-notch cultivators and rankings. He was already used to this kind of ranking when he was overseas. Where can I find him? I don't know, Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. You don't know? If you didn't know, how could you two have cooperated so well that day? What cooperation? I didn't even know that his target was you two. Yu Kui wanted to cry. If he'd known that such a high-level assassin would come, he wouldn't have intervened. Now, it seemed that something had indeed happened. Chen Zhao wasn't the only one who'd come. He'd also implicated the sect. Just then, a dozen more people came in through the spatial crack that Chen Zhao had torn open earlier. When the people of the 7 Imperial Schools saw the newcomers, their faces lit up. But when they saw the situation inside the 7 Imperial School, they were a bit scared. They'd heard that the 7 Imperial School had been attacked and thought that they'd come to help. But now, they looked at the situation inside the 7 Imperial School. It was like the sky had changed color. Old Huang, Old Wei, you're finally here. Help me subdue this murderer. Senin, what's going on? Who's that guy? This guy barged into my 7 Imperial School and killed my divine mountain protector. Now, he even wants to kill my disciple. The leader of the 7 Imperial School, Senin, clearly didn't plan on telling the truth. Help me subdue him. The 7 Imperial School and I will thank you greatly in the future. What are you talking about? We've known each other for so many years. The people who'd come to help weren't good people either. After all, the people Senin invited were all sects that advanced and retreated with the 7 Imperial School. The group of people who'd suddenly arrived quickly reached an agreement with the people of the 7 Imperial School. They clearly planned to attack together and kill Chen Zhao. Chapter 2675. Yu Keming's expression immediately improved. He was about to open his mouth and say a few harsh words. Suddenly, he remembered that he seemed to have caused great trouble for the 7 Imperial School. If they thought about it in the future, they probably wouldn't have a good time either. Thus, he shut his mouth decisively. Keeping a low profile was more important than anything else. Yu Kui's face was filled with joy. He recognized these people who had come to help. None of them were simple. They were all allies of the Seven Imperial School. They were almost all top cultivators in the spiritual world. Chen Zhao's gaze hardened. Since you're here, don't leave. Madman, who do you think you are? Quickly surrender and I'll leave your corpse intact. You're young but you talk big. A few older cultivators used their status and seniority as if they thought that they could make Chen Zhao submit with a few words. But I might not leave your corpses intact. Chen Zhao's eyes were cold. How dare you? How dare you? All of them were filled with murderous intent. They didn't take Chen Zhao seriously at all. It was as if Chen Zhao didn't take them seriously at all. After the verbal exchange was over, it was time for the real fight. Every cultivator used their special skills. All sorts of beautiful spells were thrown at Chen Zhao. However, most of these spells disappeared within a few meters of Chen Zhao. Only a few landed on Chen Zhao. After a round of attacks, everyone was shocked to find that the field was riddled with holes. But Chen Zhao was unharmed. Chen Zhao raised a hand. Tens of thousands of small black balls appeared around him. It's my turn, right? The expressions of the people from the Seven Imperial School changed drastically. Quick, defend. His spells are powerful. Don't be careless. In an instant, countless small black balls shot out. The power of each little black ball was exceptionally shocking. Each of the small black balls had the power of several to dozens of grenades. Tens of thousands of black balls exploded at the same time. It was like an arsenal exploding. Moreover, their weight and flying speed had already been determined. Even if they were not released, they would still produce extremely terrifying destructive power. The entire Seven Imperial School was already in pieces. Compared to the destruction of the Mountain Gate, what really made people despair was the people in the Seven Imperial School. Apart from Yu Kui, who was in front of Chen Zhao, no one else had a corpse left. At the very least, Yu Kui was the only one left in the Seven Imperial School. As for those who came to help, not a single one of them was alive. Can't even last one round. Chen Zhao glanced around. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind him. Devil, I'll kill you. She was a sword-wielding woman who was extremely skilled. Just when Chen Zhao thought that there would be no survivors, the woman was actually unharmed. However, Chen Zhao didn't even turn his head. To put it simply, in Chen Zhao's little world, Chen Zhao was God. In this world, no one had a more comprehensive control of the pocket world than Chen Zhao. No one had a deeper understanding of the pocket world than him. The woman thought that her attack would definitely succeed. However, in the next instant, a mysterious force erupted without any warning. The first to bear the brunt of the attack was the sword in her hand, which instantly shattered into pieces. After that was her flesh and blood body. Even weapons made of special materials disintegrated in an instant. Not to mention a body of flesh and blood. In the blink of an eye, the woman turned into a puddle of blood that splattered everywhere. Her death was more tragic than the others. Yu Kui and Yu Keming, the two cousins, were the only two lucky survivors. However, they were already scared out of their wits. The two finally realized. The man before them was a true demon. He was completely different from the enemies or troubles they'd faced in the past. He was a bloodthirsty butcher who would kill at the slightest provocation. The entire Seven Imperial School was already in pieces. Not just the ground but the sky as well. The scene was like the end of the world. Chen Zhao stood in front of them like a demon. The two felt fear and despair. I have a way. Yu Keming shouted almost at the speed of light. He didn't know what would happen if he was 1 second late. But he knew that it wasn't something he could endure. What way? What are you talking about? I have a way to find him. The person who cast a spell on you, Yu Keming explained as briefly as possible. You know how to find him? Chen Zhao stared at Yu Keming with his blood-red eyes. Could it be the Mohan he'd hired? I heard from Yu Ki that people like them have a common organization and their contact person. If we can find their contact person, we might be able to find Mohan, Enchanting said. Actually, Enchanting's method was a common method used by the police of various countries. It was very difficult to find a criminal. After all, there wasn't really any organization or power that could monitor everyone like in movies and TV shows. Therefore, they had to use the clues. Just like the saying in reality, 7 people could contact the President of the United States. Therefore, by using one clue to lead to another, after 2 or 3 times, one would basically be able to find most of the people. Chen Zhao's gaze fell on Yu Kui. I can contact my contact person, Yu Kui said hurriedly, but I've never met him. Every time there's a mission, he calls me. So you're useless? Chen Zhao's eyes were fierce. I'm useful, Yu Kui said hurriedly. Yu Kui quickly said, I have transfer records. I've checked the other party's identity through the account that transferred the money to me, but I'm not sure if the other party is my contact. That's right. You can live for now, but before I find that person, it doesn't mean you're safe. Yu Kui and Enchanting wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Hello, who's this? Gao Kun picked up the phone and looked at the unfamiliar caller ID. He didn't know that when he picked up the phone, a few pairs of eyes were staring at him. Just then, there was a car horn in the distance, but there was also a car horn on the other side of the phone. Instantly, Gao Kun's expression changed drastically. The person on the phone was nearby. Gao Kun immediately hung up and turned to cross the road. Gao Kun's brain spun rapidly. The person might still be following him. He had to think of a way to get rid of him. After thinking for a while, Gao Kun finally decided to go to the subway. There was a lot of traffic there. It was most likely to get rid of him. Gao Kun immediately went to the subway. After passing through the crowd, he got on a random train. Then he got off at a random stop and got on another train. After standing up and down a few times in this manner, Lin Fan's expression changed. Only then did Gao Kun get out of the subway. However, Gao Kun didn't relax. He went to a nearby mall and walked around. After making sure that he got rid of the person following him, he took a taxi home. Chapter 2676. Gao Kun had always been single. He always went in and out alone. After all, his line of work was a high-risk one. His family was a burden to him. The moment Gao Kun opened the door, a hand suddenly grabbed the back of his neck from behind and pressed him into the room. Who? Gao Kun wasn't a spiritualist, but he was quite skilled. If he caught someone off guard, even a spiritualist could be killed by him. Before this, he had such a battle record. He lifted his heel and kicked backward. He felt his heel kick the person's chest. However, the person didn't move at all. Gao Kun, the hitman's contact? I don't know what you're talking about. Gao Kun clenched his teeth and refused to admit it. However, his answer was met with more strength from the hand squeezing his neck. In the movies, people like you would rather die than submit. I wonder if you're the same. Gao Kun couldn't turn his head, but he could feel the owner of the hand approaching him. He smelled blood on the person. It was very, very heavy. The person had definitely killed someone before, and not long ago at that. What do you want? Gao Kun really didn't plan on dying for worldly possessions. Do you know Imo Han? I know him. He's top 3 on the hitman list. Do you have his contact number? How can I have Imo Han's contact number? I'm just a low-level contact. So you're useless to me? Wait, I don't have Imo Han's contact number, but I know a high-level contact. I hope it won't be too complicated. If I go around in circles like you, I'll have a headache. No, I know where he lives. Let's start now. Can you let go of me? Gao Kun finally saw Chen Zhao's face clearly. Hey, Mr. Deng, I have a bottle of good wine. Oh? Where's it from? People buried it in the northeast before the founding of the People's Republic. It was dug up last year and I spent 300,000 at an auction to get it. But it's boring to drink alone. How about it? Do you want to come to my place or your place? Come to my house, I'm the only one here. Alright, prepare some dishes to go with the wine. I like spicy food, so prepare some spicy dishes. I'll bring the wine over now. After Deng Xianying hung up the phone, his face couldn't help but change. He and Gao Kun had already made a secret agreement. If they were drinking, they would not go to each other's house. If the other party said that they were going to his house, then something must have happened. And the so-called dishes to go with the wine were, of course, for him to prepare. As for spicy, it meant that the target was tricky and he needed to be fully prepared. Deng Xianyang immediately picked up the phone again. "Hello, old Meng, something happened at home. Come over." Not long after, Deng Xianyang's contractor arrived. Old Meng, real name Meng Qi, nickname Bengal Tiger. He was the top assassin under Deng Xianyang. It was different from the model of an ordinary assassin and a contractor who would never meet each other. Deng Xianyang and Elder Meng often contacted each other in daily life. Elder Meng was a killer in secret. However, on the surface, he was the head of the Meng family who was responsible for slaying demons. Not only in Huaxia, but also internationally. The first thing Elder Meng did when he entered the door was ask bluntly, "Old Deng, what's the situation?" "I just received a call from a friend." Deng Xianyang told Elder Meng about the situation. "That is to say, Gao Kun will bring trouble later, right?" "Yes, that's the situation." "I see." Elder Meng nodded. "At present, we don't know who it is." Gao Kun couldn't explain the opponent's strength on the phone. "So later, you directly take the opponent down. Don't give him any chance to fight back. If you can't take him down in a short time, kill him directly." "Yes, I know what to do." Elder Meng nodded. In this regard, he was much more experienced than Elder Deng. He might not be the top spiritualist, but when it came to killing, almost no one could beat him. He was one of the very few spiritualists of the strengthening department. The strengthening department had almost no future in China. However, Elder Meng combined Eastern and Western fighting skills and integrated them into his own system. In the end, it evolved into an ultimate killing skill that belonged to him. However, his most brilliant achievement was a failed mission. He was given the task of assassinating Zhang Tianshi. And that mission ended in failure. But it was affirmed by Zhang Tianshi. Afterward, Zhang Tianshi said that if Elder Meng had not been so eager to take action at that time and entered within 10 steps, it would have been him, Zhang Tianyi, who would have died. Because of this evaluation, Elder Meng's reputation in the industry and the entire Huaxia spiritual world soared. Top cultivation, coupled with the ultimate killing skill, made him the top killer. Of course, there was also the top reputation. As one of the top 3 killers in Huaxia, he was the only one with a failed mission. But even so, no one would accuse him of being unworthy. After all, the target of his assassination was the world's top man, Zhang Tianyi. And he escaped unscathed. Even if the mission failed in the end, it was still enough for him to brag for the rest of his life. Of course, Elder Meng knew himself well. At that time, he was indeed a little young and frivolous. It was indeed as Zhang Tianshi said. Within 10 steps, it would be Zhang Tianshi who would die. But the key problem was, how could he get within 10 steps? In addition, although his face had been temporarily disguised through a spell, it had not been for a long time. But Zhang Tianshi's eyes seemed to have seen through his disguise. At that time, he did not escape unscathed at all. It was Zhang Tianshi who let him go. As a result, the outside world mistakenly thought that he retreated with his own strength. Since then, Elder Meng basically did not mention what happened that year. And the name of Zhang Tianshi was like a taboo to him. "Do you have food at home?" "In the fridge, take it yourself." With Elder Meng by his side, Deng Xianyang was much more relaxed. He knew how strong Elder Meng was. Unless a tactical missile was used to destroy a block in an instant. Otherwise, it was almost impossible to kill Elder Meng. Elder Meng was also very relaxed, as if he did not care about the upcoming battle at all. Years of experience in the industry taught him that he needed to relax at all times. Only by relaxing could his muscles be more flexible. He could also make more reactions and movements in an instant. At this time, the sound of a car parking came from downstairs. Because it was night, the sound was quite obvious. Deng Xianyang glanced at Elder Meng, who was eating cold food. "They're here. Get ready." "Okay, got it." Elder Meng put down the chopsticks in his hand and just casually shook his arms. I'm ready. Chapter 2677. Ding dong. Deng Xianying glanced at Elder Meng. Elder Meng nodded and stood behind the door. Deng Xianying opened the door. He saw Gao Kun and an unfamiliar man standing behind her. Elder Meng winked at Gao Kun. Gao Kun understood and said calmly, "Elder Meng, look what I brought you. Come on. Come in first." Elder Meng warmly invited them into the house. The moment Qin Zhao stepped into the room, Old Meng launched a sneak attack at him. The corners of Elder Meng's mouth curved. Within 10 steps, no one could escape. Chen Zhao had long known about Old Meng's existence. Therefore, he just raised his right arm slightly and grabbed Elder Meng's face. Elder Meng grabbed Chen Zhao's wrist with a backhand. A dagger popped out of his sleeve, trying to cut Chen Zhao's wrist. However, the dagger did not feel like it was cutting his wrist. Chen Zhao pressed his palm down slightly and Old Meng's body bent backward. However, Elder Meng's body was quite flexible. At least he didn't break his back. However, this position was still very uncomfortable. Chen Zhao casually tossed Old Meng away like he was trash. Using the wall, Old Meng kicked off with both feet and shot toward Chen Zhao again. It seemed that he was not satisfied with that momentary loss. He felt that he had been careless. Or perhaps he had fallen into the opponent's trap. The other party must have sensed him hiding behind the door. Therefore, this time, Elder Meng intended to go all out. Void-breaking claw. In 1/100th of a second, Old Meng was less than a meter away from Chen Zhao. At this moment, Elder Meng's hands suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he appeared before Chen Zhao and clawed at his face. His palms seemed to have pierced through space. However, the next moment, Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed both of Elder Meng's hands in an instant. Chen Zhao twisted Old Meng's hands like a fried dough twist. Once again, Chen Zhao abandoned Old Meng like trash. Both Deng Xianying and Gao Kun were shocked. Elder Meng lost? He actually lost? Wasn't he invincible within 10 meters? Even Celestial Master Zhang did not dare to let Elder Meng get within 10 meters of him. But now, he was actually defeated by someone within 10 meters. Moreover, he had lost so miserably and so quickly. Before they could react, Elder Meng had already been defeated. As if nothing had happened, Chen Zhao walked to the sofa and sat down. "I hope you can bring me some useful information," Chen Zhao said indifferently. "Otherwise, there's no value in your existence." Deng Xianying glanced at Elder Meng on the ground. At this moment, Elder Meng's arms were curled up like fried dough twists. But for an assassin like him, as long as he wasn't dead, he was in mortal danger. However, Elder Meng shook his head at Deng Xianying. Elder Meng endured the pain and did not make a sound. For Elder Meng at this moment, the external injuries were far inferior to the internal injuries he had suffered. Or rather, it was a blow to his heart. He had never lost so badly before. So direct, so straightforward. "I don't have Mo Han's contact information, but I know someone who definitely has it." Deng Xianying tried to remain calm. "Who?" "My boss, the founder and leader of the Thousand Run Association, the Serpent. Almost all the cultivator assassins in China are his subordinates," Deng Xianying said. "He's an earth serpent that has cultivated for 1,000 years. He's a peerless demon. Not only does he have thousands of cultivator assassins, but he also controls hundreds of shape-shifted demons." "Where can I find him?" Chen Zhao had already filtered out Deng Xianying's introduction of the serpent. "You're really going to find him? Where can I find him?" Chen Zhao asked again. "North Island," Deng Xianying said. "Location." Deng Xianying did not waste any time and gave him the exact location. Chen Zhao glanced at Deng Xianying. "I hope the location is accurate. Otherwise, I'll come back for you." Then Chen Zhao turned and left. Deng Xianying and Gao Kun did not expect Chen Zhao to let them go just like that. It was so straightforward that they could not get used to it. "Deng, is he really gone?" Gao Kun asked worriedly. Deng Xianying looked at Gao Kun with an ugly expression. After all, Gao Kun was the one who had brought trouble. Deng Xianying helped Elder Meng up. "Elder Meng, how are you?" "I'm badly injured," Elder Meng said in a low voice. I won't be able to fight for a few years. Deng Xianying looked at Gao Kun. Who exactly is that person? I don't know. He suddenly appeared at my door and subdued me. Gao Kun gave a simple explanation. However, he could vaguely guess who had exposed him. No matter who he is, he's dead, Deng Xianying said with a gloomy expression. Gao Kun glanced at Elder Meng. That person is probably as strong as a top assassin. So what? North Island is the serpent's nest. Not only are there hundreds of demons, but there are also thousands of trained assassins. Moreover, the serpent has 1,000 years of cultivation. Even Celestial Master Zhang might not be able to win, let alone a nameless person. It's not an exaggeration to say that North Island is a dragon's lair and a tiger's lair. Aren't you afraid that the serpent will come after you for causing trouble? Gao Kun asked. Is this trouble for the serpent? Ha! Deng Xianying sneered. Does the serpent really have Mo Han's contact information? Gao Kun looked at Deng Xianying. After all, the rules of the Wan Ren Association were set by the serpent. Assassins would only contact their contact information. Even the serpent could not force the contact information of the assassin. Gao Kun did not know if the serpent had Mo Han's contact information. However, he knew that Deng Xianying definitely had it, because Deng Xianying used to be Mo Han's contact information. Maybe, but as the leader of the Wan Ren Association, he naturally has the obligation to solve some extraordinary problems for us. Elder Meng remained silent. Deng Xianying treated Elder Meng and asked, What's wrong, Elder Meng? That person gives me a very uncomfortable feeling, Elder Meng said. What uncomfortable feeling? I don't know. Alright, don't think too much. We just need to wait for the good news. If that guy is not dead, I will ask the serpent to bring him over. When that time comes, you can personally take revenge. What you need to do now is to recuperate. Otherwise, even if he is tied up in front of you, you won't be able to kill him. I hope so. Elder Meng sighed. I'll go home first. If there's any news, inform me immediately. That's good too. You can wait for the good news at home. Elder Meng stood up and was about to leave. Suddenly he felt suffocated. He almost lost his balance and fell on the sofa. Elder Meng, what's wrong? Chapter 2678. Elder Meng tremblingly reached into his pocket and searched for something. He took out a blood jade that was covered in cracks. What is this? A life-returning stone. My teacher and I gave one to each other. Elder Meng's face became solemn. What is this life-returning stone for? As long as a trace of essence is injected into the life-returning stone, no matter where it is, as long as the owner of the essence is abnormal, it will be reflected on the life-returning stone at the same time. Back then, my teacher and I had a good relationship, so we gave each other a life-returning stone. If we were in danger, the other could find out in time and help us. Elder Meng's face became more and more unsightly. Help me dial a number. Deng Xianying immediately dialed the phone number for Elder Meng. It's off. Deng Xianying looked up at Elder Meng. Where is your teacher? He's on the Great North Island. Elder Meng's face was full of worry. What could it be? It's impossible. The Great North Island is more than 3,000 kilometers away from here. It's on the high seas. No matter how fast that person is, it's impossible for him to reach the Great North Island in just a few minutes. It should be a coincidence. Your teacher might be sick or some other accident. At this moment, the life-returning stone in Elder Meng's palm exploded without warning. Everyone was stunned and looked up at Elder Meng. Elder Meng was silent for a while. He's dead. Elder Deng, do you know anyone on the Great North Island? Or someone's contact number? Wait. Elder Meng took out an old phone book. This phone book was obviously a little old. After all, almost no one would use a phone book nowadays. Deng Xianying flipped through the phone book, then picked up the phone and dialed. However, there was also a notification that the phone was turned off. Deng Xianying frowned and flipped through another phone number. He dialed again, but there was still a notification that the phone was turned off. Deng Xianying flipped through another phone number. This time, someone finally picked up. However, the The first thing that came was a loud noise. It was not the sound of an explosion, but more like the sound of something heavy hitting the ground. No matter who you are, come to the Great North Island immediately to support. I repeat, support the Great North Island. There's a strong enemy attacking the Great North Island. The voice on the other end of the phone sounded very anxious and panicked. Chief, the king has come out, we're saved. Roared out a loud dragon roar came from the other end of the line. Then, there was a series of explosions. Patriarch, even the king can't stop that person? The king is injured. Patriarch, what do we do now? That person is eating the king. He's not human. He's not human. He's a demon. Don't shout. Hurry up and organize people to save the king. Hurry, Your Majesty. At this moment, the person on the other end of the phone suddenly let out a hysterical scream. It was obvious that something very bad had happened. The three people on the other end of the phone didn't look too good. Bang. I don't know, I really don't know Mohan. I don't have his contact information. Screams and wails could be heard from the other end of the line. It was like a call to hell. The voice on the other end of the phone was filled with despair and fear. I know who knows how to contact Mohan. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I don't want to die. Deng Xianying threw the phone on the table. It felt as if he was throwing out some big trouble. No, we can't stay here. Deng Xianying suddenly stood up and shouted in horror, that man, he will come back. We must leave here now, we have to hide in a place where no one can find us. However, Elder Meng didn't move. Elder Meng, did you hear what I said? Let's go quickly. Gao Kun was trembling, he also didn't want to leave. Elder Meng shook his head, we can't escape, that person has left a mark on our bodies, even if we escape to the ends of the earth, we can't escape from his hands. Then what should we do? By the way, we will set up a trap. You find a few people to go with you, you are a top killer, if you sneak attack, you can definitely kill him. At this moment, Deng Xianying was a little scared out of his wits. He was like holding on to the last life-saving straw, panicking and helpless. Elder Meng slowly raised his head and looked at Deng Xianying. I'm afraid that the strength of that person is beyond our understanding. The Flood Dragon, the trained killers of the Great North Island, and the demon tribe of the Great North Island, none of them could stop that person. Do you think the people I found can stop him? Then what should we do? I don't want to die. I don't want to wait for death here. We can't do anything, Elder Meng said calmly. For a moment, the three fell into silence. The atmosphere in the room became deathly silent. Time passed by minute by minute. The three seemed to be waiting for the judgment of fate. Although they looked calm, they couldn't calm down inside. The morning light of dawn shone into the living room. But the morning light didn't bring them any warmth. It was because a figure covered in sticky blood had come with the morning light. The three stood up immediately as if their hair stood on end. The entire living room was filled with the smell of blood. The three looked at Chen Zhao. They didn't know how many people he had killed. But it must be a frightening number. Do you mind taking a shower here? Chen Zhao glanced at Deng Xianying. But he clearly wasn't asking Deng Xianying. 10 minutes later, Chen Zhao came out of the bathroom. He was much more spirited now. He wasn't as hungry as before. His hunger hadn't been completely eliminated, but he wasn't tormented by it anymore. After all, he just swallowed a 1,000-year-old dragon. Chen Zhao also changed his clothes. Relaxed, he sat before the three of them. Go out and buy some breakfast. Chen Zhao looked at Gao Kun. The more, the better. Gao Kun was shocked, not understanding Chen Zhao's intentions. If you can't even buy breakfast, then you're too worthless. Gao Kun ran out as if she was running for her life. Chen Zhao looked at Deng Xianying. Do you need me to explain my intentions again? Deng Xianying's face was pale. If I help you contact Mohan, can you let me go? That depends on how much you can help me contact him. Deng Xianying swallowed. I'll try my best to find out where he is. If you can help me find out where he is, then you'll be spared. Elder Meng's eyes flashed as he looked at Chen Zhao. Can I ask, what's the situation on North Island now? Most of the people and demons on the island are dead, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Chapter 2679. On a private plane that was crossing the border, Mo Han and the contact were drinking wine face to face. Something happened to Bei Dao, the contact said. Oh, what happened? I heard they were attacked. The government? Mo Han's first thought was that it was an attack from the government. After all, with the size of Bei Dao and the power of the Wan Ren Association, even a sect of the same level wouldn't attack Bei Dao. No one had absolute strength that could crush Bei Dao. Even the Supreme Celestial Master Zhang and the Celestial Master sect couldn't do it. Only the government had such power. I don't know. My friend in Bei Dao told me last night. What's the current situation? I can't get in touch with him. But Bei Dao has the serpent. Even if it's an attack from the government, it's enough to make them suffer. Forget it. No matter what happens to Bei Dao, it has nothing to do with us, Mo Han said indifferently. Yes, since you've decided to leave the Wan Ren Association, Bei Dao and the serpent have nothing to do with you anymore. The contact smiled and said, the Alliance of 10,000 Evil spent so much money to invite a great god like you over. They don't want you to be half-hearted. I just agreed to be their coach for 5 years, Mo Han said disapprovingly. Mo Han disapprovingly said, if they think that I will become their slave from now on, then they are thinking too much. If necessary, I don't mind giving them a show of strength. Then you have to be merciful. After all, they're your sugar daddy now. Don't go too far with them, the contact said with a smile. All right, I know what I'm doing. At that moment, Mo Han's phone rang. Hey, old Deng, what's up? Where you now? I'm on a plane. I just crossed the border. You went abroad? Yes, a foreign organization invited me to be a coach, Mo Han said. In the past, he and Deng Xianyang had a good time working together. Even when they separated, it was considered a peaceful breakup. So, they still contacted each other occasionally. What organization? The Alliance of Evil, Mo Han replied. He didn't hide it. After all, it wasn't the first time. Italy's Alliance of Evil? That's it. Mo Han replied. What's the matter? I just wanted to have a drink with you, but it seems like I won't have the chance. It doesn't matter. I will only go abroad for a few years. Moreover, you can also come to Italy. I will be the host. Mo Han said straightforwardly. All right then, there's nothing else. Let me know when you've decided. I'll contact you if I have plans to go abroad. No problem. Mo Han hung up the phone. The person on the other end of the line looked at Mo Han and asked, Is it old Deng? Mo Han did not hide anything and directly nodded. The contact person didn't say much. This was their tacit understanding. At that time, the person who had contacted Deng Xianyang had taken away Mo Han's representative rights. He and Deng Xianyang could be considered to have formed a grudge. However, Mo Han had never fallen out with Deng Xianyang. This made him a little disappointed. After all, if Mo Han and Deng Xianyang fell out, then it would be impossible for them to cooperate again. But Deng Xianyang was smarter than most people. Even if he was unhappy, he still kept in touch with Mo Han. Just like Mo Han's big brother. Mo Han would also give Deng Xianyang warmth from time to time. At this time, the phone of the person on the other end of the line rang. Hello, old monster Gung. What's the situation on the Great North Island now? Are there any losses? All dead. Old Monster Gung's voice was filled with fear. The entire Great North Island was annihilated. The giant serpent, the 2 great monster clans, and more than 1,000 trained killers were all killed. What? What happened? I don't know. Last night, a person broke into the Great North Island and started a massacre. He even said that he was looking for Mo Han. Looking for Mo Han? Yes, of course. The giant serpent was not happy, so it fought with the devil. In just a few rounds, the giant serpent was killed by the devil. Even its monster core was crushed by the devil. And that devil actually skinned the giant serpent's body and swallowed it alive. You mean, the giant serpent is also dead? Are you kidding me? When you called me last night, you seemed quite relaxed. Mo Han frowned, but he did not interrupt. Instead, he waited for the person on the other end of the line. My fucking brain. I'm joking with you? Old Monster Gung's tone suddenly became agitated. Who did Emohan offend? The entire Great North Island was destroyed by him. There are less than 20 people alive, including the monster clans. Half of the Great North Island was destroyed, and the other half is also a river of blood. Can you believe that this was done by one person? Is what you said true? That devil seemed to have obtained some information before the giant serpent died. At that time, he did not force me to tell him. Otherwise, I might have sold you out. You and Emohan better be careful. Run as far as you can, and do not return to the Great North Island for the time being. That's all I have to say. You guys are on your own now. Old Monster Gung hung up after saying that. The person on the other end did not speak for a long time. After a long time, he turned to look at Emohan. Emohan, did you offend any enemies recently? What are you talking about? In our line of work, we always offend enemies every time we do a mission. Emohan, I'm not joking with you. The giant serpent is dead, and the entire Great North Island is a river of blood. Old Monster Gung said that it was done by one person, and that person is looking for you. Are you joking? I'm not joking. Think about it carefully. Are you sure you didn't offend anyone you shouldn't have? You know all my missions. Even if there is someone with a terrifying background, I don't know. You have seen every mission, and if anyone knows, you would know it better than me. That person is not only powerful, but also cruel. His behavior is also creepy. He actually ate the giant serpent alive. Emohan was shocked when he heard the words of the person on the other end. Eating the flesh and blood of a living creature? Why does this sound like the symptoms of someone who has been hit by the 9 Viscera techniques? Emohan suddenly had a very bad feeling. The person on the other end looked at Emohan's face and felt nervous. Emohan, did you remember something? A few days ago, Zhang Ding asked me to do a private thing. What private thing? He seems to have lost a lot of face because of some strong person and then asked me to trick the other party. Emohan's complexion was very ugly to look at. I don't know the strength of that person, but the other party was hit by my magic. Chapter 2680. Hit by your spell? Then he shouldn't be very strong, right? The man asked hopefully. What will happen if he's hit by your spell? He'll become very hungry, as if he can't eat his fill. Soon he'll even eat raw food, even living things. Emohan's expression was solemn. He was already regretting his decision. He even hated Zhang Ding. Zhang Ding had brought him a huge problem. A monster that had razed Debay Island to the ground and eaten the serpents like snacks. It was very dangerous to fight against such a monster. Suddenly, the plane shook violently. Then the man and Emohan both came to the cabin door and made a strange sound. The sound wasn't loud, but it made people's hair stand on end. Emohan felt like his scalp was going to explode. He'd just seen something fly across the window. But the thing was too fast so he couldn't see it clearly. The next moment, the air pressure in the cabin plummeted, followed by a huge airflow. The man grabbed his seat and screamed in fear. The cabin door had been pulled open by something, or rather, someone. At this moment, a large amount of air was escaping outwards. A figure finally jumped in through the open cabin door. When Chen Zhao saw Emohan, he immediately grinned. We meet again. I've never missed a man so much. You're the first. You should feel honored. Emohan couldn't keep his cool anymore. He couldn't keep his cool either. After all, the strong airflow made it hard for people to stand still, let alone face a terrifying enemy. Emohan finally steadied himself. He cast a spell without hesitation. But this time, Chen Zhao wouldn't give him the chance to do it. Chen Zhao instantly appeared before Emohan. Emohan screamed in agony. His palms were crushed by Chen Zhao. Then, Emohan felt like his scalp was about to be torn apart. He and the man were dragged out of the plane by Chen Zhao by the hair. While the two were in a panic, they also saw Emohan's private plane falling from the sky, emitting black smoke. Soon, Chen Zhao threw the two into the pure white snow on the ground. This was the border of China, near Changbai Mountain. The temperature here was below zero all year round. Especially at this time of the year, The temperature could reach -20 degrees Celsius. Moreover, the altitude here was high, and the lack of oxygen, low temperature, and strong cold air were fatal threats to any living creature that came close. Even humans at the top of the food chain would find it hard to adapt to the environment here. However, Qin Zhao was not the only one who found it hard to adapt. This was a territory that no human had ever occupied. The heaven and earth spiritual qi here was much denser than in other places. However, as a cultivator, it was very difficult for Mo Han to enjoy the heaven and earth spiritual qi here. Before he could enjoy the heaven and earth spiritual qi here, he first had to overcome the harsh environment here. How do I undo the spell? Qin Zhao asked directly. Mo Han looked at Qin Zhao. Unless you can guarantee my safety, you'll never be able to undo the spell. Qin Zhao stepped forward and put his hand on Mo Han's shoulder. Mo Han thought Qin Zhao was going to attack him. But in the next moment, a warm current flowed into his body. Mo Han was delighted in his heart. It seems like his threat had worked. Mo Han rolled his eyes, seeing the other party compromise so easily, he might be able to get more benefits from him. Soon, Mo Han discovered that his destroyed palms had miraculously regrown. Mo Han raised his head and looked at Qin Zhao. He was about to ask for more. Qin Zhao said with a smile, "Compared to undo the spell, I want to torture you and destroy you." Ah! In the midst of Qin Zhao's cruel laughter, Mo Han screamed again, and this time it was even more intense than before. Mo Han's whole arm was crushed by Qin Zhao. "You won't die so easily. You will enjoy all the torture I know, all the torture I can think of." Qin Zhao looked at Mo Han with a ferocious face. When the blood splashed out, it directly froze. Mo Han was rolling around in the snow, wailing in pain. But when he was about to freeze to death, Qin Zhao gave him a life force. Qin Zhao looked at the contact person. He was curled up, not daring to make a sound. Even if he was about to freeze to death, he didn't dare to attract the attention of the devil. Just by looking at Mo Han's miserable state, one could feel the fear of the contact person at this moment. "How much do you know?" Qin Zhao asked. "It's Zhang Ding." Zhang Ding found him. "Before today, I didn't know anything." "He didn't attack you because he got the mission from me," the contact person answered truthfully. Qin Zhao closed his eyes silently. This answer was not out of his expectations. Qin Zhao had already guessed it before. Only Zhang Ding had enough power and money. He could hire a top assassin to assassinate him. But now, the contact person had turned his guess into reality. "Walk east from here. There's a village about 15 kilometers away. If you can walk out alive, it's your luck." The contact person opened his mouth. He wanted to beg. In this snowy environment, and with the clothes he was wearing, he couldn't even walk 5 kilometers. Not to mention 15 kilometers, he couldn't even walk 5 kilometers. But when he met Qin Zhao's cold gaze, he understood. He understood that Qin Zhao wouldn't care about his life or death. Qin Zhao was already being merciful by not killing him on the spot. And Qin Zhao didn't care whether the contact person lived or died. He was more interested in torturing Mo Han. In the past, Mo Han's image had always been unfathomable and pretentious. Coupled with his identity as a top assassin, every time he appeared, people would feel a chill down their spines. But now, his image no longer existed. No one could maintain their cold and aloof image after being tortured again and again. Plus, Mo Han wasn't that kind of person at all. The image he had in the past was just his persona. Assassins needed personas too. If a top assassin didn't have his own identity and persona, then what was the difference between him and ordinary assassins? Torturing one's enemy was very satisfying. Qin Zhao was almost addicted. Over and over again, he repeated the same thing tirelessly. Of course, Qin Zhao would still innovate. He would change his methods to torture Mo Han, until Mo Han begged Qin Zhao to free him. And he told Qin Zhao a truth. Previously, he'd resisted and wasn't willing to let go because he still had a sliver of hope. But as Qin Zhao's torture methods became more and more inhuman, he finally realized. He definitely couldn't continue under Qin Zhao's inhuman methods. The 9 steps of the Viscera technique were unsolvable. Chapter 2681. Mao Mountain, the sacred land of Taoism for thousands of years. The Maoshan Taoist sect was also known as the Maoshan Celestial Master Sect. The Celestial Master Sect did not just refer to the Celestial Master Sect of Longhu Mountain. It was the inheritance of the Celestial Master Path. The Sage Sect had a total of 4 major orthodoxies. They were the legacies left behind by Zhang Daoling, Gohong, Su Sun, and Sa Shoujin. Among them, Mount Longhu's Celestial Master Sect inherited Zhang Daoling's teachings and developed to this day. Their foundation, power, and influence were the best. Next was the Maoshan Celestial Master Sect, which used to be Gohong's Taoist site. Later on, when the emperor conferred the title of Celestial Master at the beginning of the Song dynasty, Gohong was given the title of Celestial Master and was bestowed with many Taoist classics. After 1,000 years of development, it became a Taoist holy land that was on par with Mount Longhu. The second was the Celestial Master Orthodoxy of Su Sun and Sa Shou. They did not leave behind a sect. Although they also had their own Taoist legacies, their reputation was far inferior to that of Mount Longhu and Mount Mao. Just like Dragon Tiger Mountain, Mao Mountain was divided into inner and outer sections. The Maoshan sect was also a national tourist attraction. But ordinary tourists could only come into contact with outer sections. Only the inner sect was the core of the Mao Mountain Sage sect. The cold wind at the beginning of the year had yet to pass. Then came the heavy rain, making the air even colder and more humid. Even Mao Mountain, which was always full of incense offerings, was now sparsely populated. However, today, the cold wind brought 2 uninvited guests. A well-dressed man in a suit and tie. Behind him was a figure wrapped in thick black clothes. Chen Zhao didn't like this weather. The humid air made his breath sticky. After crossing the 9 Melodies Sky ascending stairs, he passed by the Return Heaven Cave and the Treasure Pavilion of High Heaven. Chen Zhao was stopped by 2 young Taoists. "Gentlemen, this place is not open to the public. Please stay here." "Little brother, we're here to visit an old friend. We know Tao Lord Zhang Ding," Chen Zhao said with a smile. "A friend of the Taoist Lord?" The 2 Taoist priests hesitated. "Please wait a moment, we need to confirm." A Taoist priest took out a phone. "Hey master, there are 2 gentlemen at the door. They say they are friends of the Tao Lord and are here to visit him." "What's your name? Where did he come from? Could you please leave your names?" "My surname is Chen. I'm good friends with Celestial Master Zhang of Mount Longhu. If it's inconvenient for you to contact Tao Lord Zhang Ding, you can contact him." Hearing that Chen Zhao knew Zhang Tianyi, the 2 Taoist priests were filled with deep respect. "Please come in." Although the Tao Lord is not at the mountain gate, he should be back in less than half a day. The 2 young Taoist priests felt that since the 2 dared to use Zhang Tianyi's name, their identities could not be faked. Moreover, they did not believe that the 2 of them would dare to cause trouble at Mao Mountain. Moreover, Chen Zhao looked very friendly and gave off a feeling of closeness. Of course, it was also possible that they didn't think that Chen Zhao was a bad person. As for the person behind Chen Zhao who was covered by a black cloth, his face couldn't be seen. They knew that there were always some people in the spirit world who dressed strangely or were unwilling to show their faces to others. Chen Zhao entered the inner sect of Mao Mountain as he wished. If the outer sect was said to be picturesque, then the inner sect would be a paradise. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was the bell spirit of heaven and earth. It was almost as good as Chen Zhao's Mirror Lake Manor. After all, there was a super internal alchemy in Mirror Lake. It was a treasure left by Old Turtle. Rich spiritual energy was released at all times and blended with heaven and earth, making the Mirror Lake Manor seem like a heavenly paradise. Even the water of Mirror Lake had undergone incredible changes. Because of this, Dashan Beer used the water of Mirror Lake to brew beer of such high quality. The Mao Mountain inner sect's spiritual qi was slightly inferior to Mirror Lake. However, the area here was more than 10 times larger than Mirror Lake. The 2 Taoist priests led the way and explained the various attractions in the inner sect to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao had to admit that they were qualified tour guides. They introduced the various attractions in great detail. "That's the Yao Ceiling Tower. Since ancient times, countless monsters, demon kings, and demons have been suppressed under it. One of the young Taoist priests pointed at a 70% pagoda not far away. His tone was somewhat proud. Yao Ceiling Tower? Isn't that from Shu Mountain? Ha! There's no Shu Mountain in China's spirit world. In the spirit world, Shu Mountain is the three-sword sects of Imei, Qingqing, and Wawa Mountain, the young Taoist priest said. The three-sword sects can't compare to Mao Mountain's Celestial Masters sect. Also, the three-sword sects of Shu Mountain don't have a Yao Ceiling Tower either. It's just something made up in movies. Then are the monsters in the Yao Ceiling Tower still alive? Is it still called suppressing if they're dead? Ha! That's true. Chen Zhao chuckled and rubbed his nose. Sir, you seem to be unfamiliar with the situation of the spirit world in China. Yes, I just came back from abroad. No wonder. By the way, why are you only suppressing these monsters? Why don't you just get rid of them? Won't there be future problems? Sir, there's something you don't understand. The young Taoist priest spoke like an expert. Although the cultivation results of monsters and humans are different, the cultivation process of monsters is actually very similar to that of humans. They both use the spiritual qi of heaven and earth as a supplement. When a monster cultivates a monster core, it can be converted into spiritual qi of heaven and earth through the qi refinement rejuvenation array. The reason why Mao Mountain has such spiritual qi of heaven and earth is because of the qi refinement rejuvenation array, which is provided by the many monsters in the Yao Ceiling Tower. That's the cloud observation platform. Apparently, the first Taoist master Guhong comprehended the Tao on that platform. Although Guhong was from the Jin dynasty, he was conferred the title of Taoist master in the early Song dynasty. Not only was he conferred the title of Taoist master, but he was also conferred the title of God. Of course, ancient emperors liked to play this game. They conferred the title of some famous religious figures in the past to show their orthodoxy. In the eyes of emperors, as long as they conferred the title of God on someone, they seemed to have obtained the authority of God. Of course, giving themselves the authority of God seemed to be a bit self-deceiving. However, ancient people liked to play this game. Not only did they confer the title of God on others, but they also liked to confer the title of God on themselves. Throughout the ages, many people were conferred the title of God or Taoist master. However, those who were truly recognized and passed down to the present day were few and far between. At that moment, an old Taoist priest came from the opposite side. When the old Taoist priest saw Chen Zhao also made eye contact with him. This old Taoist priest was the goateed old Taoist priest who had gotten into a conflict with him at Hanwang Mountain. The goateed Taoist priest's expression changed as soon as he saw Chen Zhao. It's you. Why are you here? I'm here to visit Taoist Master Zhang, of course. Chen Zhao had a faint smile on his face. The Maoshan sect is not that close to you. Get out of the Maoshan sect right now, or you'll be in trouble. The two young Taoist priests who had been welcoming the tour guide warmly could not help but have strange expressions on their faces when they saw the attitude of their seniors toward Chen Zhao. Come on, show me, Chen Zhao said with a smile. Chapter 2682. The goatee's expression was extremely dark, but he didn't make a move. After all, he had suffered at Chen Zhao's hands a few days ago. Even Zhang Ding was pressed to the ground by Chen Zhao. The goatee took out a talisman and threw it into the sky. The talisman flew into the sky as if it defied the laws of physics. When it reached 100 meters in the air, it turned into a beautiful firework with a boom. The two young Taoist priests saw the goatee take out an emergency talisman and immediately backed away from Chen Zhao. They looked at Chen Zhao and the person behind him warily. Soon, the inner sect disciples of the Maoshan sect arrived one after another. Hunyang, why did you use an emergency talisman? An older Taoist priest asked. Master, this person is a great enemy of our sect. We had a conflict a few days ago and he humiliated the Maoshan sect and the Taoist lord in public, the goatee said selectively. The old Taoist frowned and turned to look at Chen Zhao, then at the man in black behind him. Sir, why have you trespassed on the Maoshan sect? If you can't explain yourself today, I'm afraid neither of us will have a good time. The white-clothed old Taoist's tone seemed to be impartial, but in reality, it was somewhat aggressive. I've never thought about a good time, Qin Zhao said coolly. If you can't give me an answer today, I'm afraid I'll have to end your lineage today. How dare you? The old Taoist was so angry that he glared at Qin Zhao. I'd like to see how you're going to end the lineage of Mao Shan. The old Taoist pulled out his sword. It was a long sword that seemed to be made of iron and wood. The blade was dark red, but it had a metallic sheen to it. Both sides of the blade were engraved with indecipherable runes. Heaven and earth are infinite, borrow the power of heaven and earth. Above is the sky, below is the thick earth. Follow me, pardon. The old Taoist used a killing move right off the bat, the 9 Heavens Thunder Mantra. Boom! A bolt of purple lightning fell from the sky, but it didn't land on Qin Zhao's head. Instead, it was attracted by the old Taoist's long sword and landed on the tip. The old Taoist was unharmed, but the dark red long sword flashed with lightning. Qin Zhao suddenly moved and appeared before the old Taoist in a flash. The old Taoist widened his eyes and swung his sword at Qin Zhao's head. Qin Zhao raised his fist and swung it at the dark red sword. A terrifying electric current surged into his body. However, Qin Zhao was least afraid of thunder spells. Therefore, the fist momentum did not stop at all, and the terrifying force directly penetrated the dark red long sword. The dark red long sword broke. At the same time, the force did not completely dissipate. It flowed along the sword and into the old Taoist's palm. Ah! The white-clothed old Taoist screamed miserably. His palms had already been destroyed by this power. The white-robed old Taoist hurriedly retreated and shouted, "Heavenly venerable demons subduing array, activate." 9 elderly Taoist priests immediately stepped forward and set up a large formation. The Celestial Lord Demon Subduing Formation was the great protective formation of the Mao Shan sect. It was called Subduing Demons, but in reality, regardless of whether one was a demon or a ghost, good or evil, as long as they entered this formation, they would most likely die. Qin Zhao condensed a small black ball between his fingers. He randomly chose a Taoist priest in the formation and shot it out. Heaven and Earth Reversal. Stars Reversal. The Taoist priest flicked his long sword, and the small black ball that was as heavy as 10,000 caddies was actually lifted up by him, changing its trajectory. The Taoist priest could only see the Taoist priest deflecting 1,000 caddies with little effort. He turned his body, and with a flick of his long sword, the small black ball actually flew back to him. Qin Zhao tilted his head slightly, and the black ball flew past his side. Unorthodox demon. The Taoist priest in the center of the formation shouted, full of vigor. Today, you won't be able to return alive. Qin Zhao sneered. He lifted a finger and another black ball condensed. This one was 100 times heavier than the previous one. Qin Zhao threw it at the Taoist priest again. The Taoist priest responded with the same move. But as soon as the blade touched the black ball, it felt a terrifying force. The blade was slightly bent. Clearly, it was too strong. Brothers and sisters, help me subdue the demon. The heavenly venerable demon subduing array was a combination of offense and defense. It combined the strength of 9 people and applied it to one body. Moreover, all 9 of them had extraordinary cultivation. Any one of them would be a top cultivator outside, let alone 9 of them working together. However, the difference between their cultivation and Qin Zhao's was too huge. It was so huge that it couldn't be calculated. The Taoist priest combined the strength of 9 people, but still couldn't return the black ball to Qin Zhao. He could only barely change the trajectory of the black ball. But just when he thought that the black ball had changed its trajectory, the black ball suddenly exploded. Boom! The 9 Taoist priests were sent flying at the same time. Even the Mao Shan Taoist priests outside were knocked down by the shockwave. Pick up a sword and cut off the hands of those 9 cow noses, Qin Zhao said fiercely. In reality, he had been rather restrained. So far, no one had died. After all, the Mao Shan sect was different from the Wanren Society. No matter how many connections the Wanren Society had, they couldn't escape from being an evil organization. But the Maoshan sect was different. No matter how many dirty things they had done behind the scenes, at least on the surface, they were a religious organization recognized by the government and the people. Even Chen Zhao had to think about the consequences of going on a killing spree. If Chen Zhao went too far and stirred up some people's nerves, by then, Chen Zhao would have to face more than just the Maoshan sect. If everyone was a martial artist and used the rules of the martial world to decide life and death, Chen Zhao would dare to make the Maoshan sect disappear. But when it came to the country and the government, no matter how tough Chen Zhao was, he had to think about it first. It had nothing to do with right or wrong, good or evil. It was just a matter of tolerance. No matter how reasonable Chen Zhao was, he wouldn't allow a killing spree in a place like the Maoshan sect. When the government felt that you affected the political situation or social stability, the government would directly suppress you and then reason with you. The person behind Chen Zhao picked up a sword from the ground and walked forward step by step. He was about to slash at the first Taoist priest on the ground. "How dare you!" A loud rebuke was heard. The man in black seemed to be frozen. He couldn't bring his sword down no matter how hard he tried. A green shadow attacked, and the black-clothed man let out a muffled groan as he was sent flying. It was a seemingly young female Taoist priest. Qingping Jinren. The old Taoist priest in white went forward and bowed. "What's going on?" the female Taoist priest asked sternly. These two dared to offend the Maoshan holy ground. They must be evil. Qingping Jinren's eyes were like a hawk's as he looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't plan to explain. He suddenly attacked Qingping Jinren. This time, Chen Zhao used his full strength the moment he attacked. This female Taoist priest was worthy of his full strength. She was a Shangqing realm cultivator. Qingping Jinren's expression changed drastically in an instant. They were both in the Shangqing realm, but she felt an unprecedented danger. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.